Doesn't look like it is live.
Yeah, it's always, I can never quite tell with these things. The last time I tried to do
Oh
something like
no,
this, we went like a minute, and then I was like,
we are
oh,
live.
yeah, good, we are live then.
We
I
are
went like a
live. It's
minute, did a
working.
long, elaborate
I
introduction for
know. Yeah.
people last
As
time.
a, I've done that
Yeah,
before. Yeah.
yeah,
I
had
think
to redo it
on a
all.
couple of these, I've just the actual thing just begins mid sentence, and I've been speaking for about 5 minutes. So, oh well.
Wow.
So here we are. Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, the world has changed a lot since I saw you last. Last time we were stuck inside our house. We've left our houses since
yeah.
then.
Gone out and done things, seen
You've
people,
made quite a lot of things since then. You've
made
made
a
about a
few
million
things.
podcasts since then.
I have probably slightly too many podcasts, but yeah, I've
Well,
kind of branched out and done a little bit of that. Done a bit of mythology as well. For anyone who's unfamiliar with my channel, hello, I'm Charles. As Pete said, I'm the history. I do videos on like history, archaeology, and as I said, mythology as well. And yeah, I've kind of been doing a lot of various different podcasts. I've had a couple of things going on in my personal life last couple of years that have kind of made I had a bit of a reduced amount of time I could spend on this. But now I'm kind of like starting to dive back in to my core content, which is long form. Is it video essays the right term these days? I never know.
video
Uh,
essay, documentary,
yeah,
I
I-
suppose.
I'll take either. Yeah,
Yeah, your long form sort of ancient civilizations videos are what I know you for anyway.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The
awesome
most
stuff.
recent, thank you. Yeah, the most recent one I did was on cave art, for example. Before that, I did like a long form series that was on the early origins of like I termed it like the birth of civilization, but it was kind of the origins of like farming, urban societies, that sort of thing. I
Yeah.
did videos about Gilgamesh, Royal Cemetery Earth, all sorts of stuff. Mm.
And you've recently done China as well, which I like. It's
Yes, I need to get back to that. I've started working on a series looking at the earliest origins of Chinese civilization, looking at
mm,
origins of farming societies, which happened arguably much earlier there than anywhere else in the world, and along with other parts of what you call it, of East Asia.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking to get back to that as well. I've done 3 entries in that series, and I'm going to be looking in the next few months to be coming back and doing one kind of moving more into like early dynastic China at this point.
Oh,
And
yeah, nice, nice. Yeah, there's so much of Chinese history, isn't there? It's
there
a
is, that's the
little
thing.
bit overwhelming at first when you look at it, but it's also fascinating, because the Chinese Neolithic alone goes on for thousands of years,
Oh
and then
yeah, yeah,
eventually you get sort of well, it's jade really, isn't it? More
yeah,
so than metal to begin with. Jade is the sort of thing they make, well, art and
yeah. The kind of
icons of power and things like that.
early prestige items and stuff
Yeah,
like that. A lot of that
yeah.
is Jade. This is me trying to remember the last one I made, which was about a year ago. Trying to remember the details on that. Um, yes, I think the Chinese Neolithic goes for something silly like something like it's either 4,000 or 6,000 years. I can't remember off the top of my
Yeah, it's
head.
a long time. It's a
It
long
is.
time. Yeah, 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 yeah.
If you consider how long like the European Neolithic went by comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, European Neolithic's very short, and everything just arrives at once. I
Mm.
suppose the Near Eastern Neolithic goes on for a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
We
yeah,
got kind of jump started a little bit by those Anatolian farmers wandering over
pretty
into
much,
Greece and other
pretty
areas.
much,
Yeah.
pretty much, and then wandering over here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, right. Well, as is tradition, I have assembled you here, and I've demanded 5 archaeological cultures from you, which you very graciously
Mm.
uh, put together, including some lovely images. So what we've done today is we've decided to do 10 of our, I suppose you could say 10 of our favourite archaeological, I suppose.
Yep. Keeping it
And
simple.
yeah, we'll go on a little journey through time. We'll go on a journey through time. We'll start at the beginning,
Mm.
sort of, because I think mine's actually going to go further back than yours. But as
Is
you're the
it? Yeah.
guest, you can go first. Um,
Okay.
so I'm going to turn over to a different screen.
Oh wow.
I'll share.
Some modern technology.
Oh, the wonders of modern technology. Here we go. Just confuse everyone by putting us on there.
Yeah. So we're going to be starting with
Cool.
the
Yeah.
Cucuteni-Trypillia culture. So this is taking us over to this is kind of fifth millennium BCE, BC, whichever one you want to use for going through till the third millennium, at least like this first half of the third millennium BCE, BC. And this is a culture which kind of flourished throughout parts of modern Romania, Moldova, and western parts of Ukraine. And I thought this would be a fun one to pick. This is kind of one which does tend to get a little bit, I think, overlooked when it comes to the history of kind of urbanization and
Definitely.
the kind of dynamics of developments of like local elites and power accumulation in early societies. And yeah, this is a fun one. I quite like this one indeed. So the way I tend to describe this one to people is at the same time that you were maybe starting to get bigger settlements starting to appear in places like northern Mesopotamia, the kind of woody flanks parts of Mesopotamia, and possibly parts of like southern Mesopotamia. There were settlements flourishing in this part of the world that had tens of thousands of people living in them. And that fact tends to get a little bit overlooked. People tend to talk a bit more like about your Çatalhöyük, your Sumerian cities, your Uruk, places like that. And
just to quickly add to what you're saying, like it's not like a singular thing like Çatalhöyük. There's flipping tens, if not hundreds, of these things with tens of thousands of people in each one.
Exactly.
And like on this map, like look at the sheer amount of them. I mean, we've got some neighbouring cultures here as well, but this is at the top what we're focusing on now. But like, what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, these are just the main sites, and there's so many of them.
There's so many. It's astounding. So this is a very long live culture, as I mentioned, but the actual period of time that people tend to focus on in terms of like the peak interest in this culture is kind of early 5th millennium, 4250 BCE through to kind of early 4th millennium sort of territory. And it's because that's around the time that in this culture you start to see these Neolithic and Chalcolithic Copper Age settlements appearing on kind of like river basins and plateaus and places like that house tens like between, I think the estimates I saw, between about lower end 7,000, upper end 25,000 people living in these settlements.
It's a lot. I mean, as far as I'm aware, Çatalhöyük is kind of like absolute tops 10,000, so it's more than Çatalhöyük, and that's the one that gets all of the press.
There's been a couple of like papers coming out recently doing like some population dynamics that claim that Çatalhöyük might actually have had a lot less people living in it at one single time. Maybe more like a case of like 1,200 people rather than 10,000 people at any given time.
Yeah.
And it might be the size of this site is just because of big accumulation and because it was occupied for so long. Whereas these are not long-lived settlements these people are living in. These are settlements that probably 60, 70 years people are living in. They're building up these vast accumulations of people living there in these well-planned, orderly settlements sustained by intensive agricultural practices. And then they're, going by some theories, they're burning them down and starting again somewhere else.
I was going to say, am I right in thinking they burn their own houses down after a kind of brief interval, almost like the life of the house has come to an end, so then they go and just do another one?
Yeah, it's a bit similar to it's quite similar to like a lot of housing practices in the Middle East, where like during this period and period before, there was almost like a ritual destruction of a house before a new house could be built. I don't know if they actually reoccupied any of the areas that they burnt down, but I know there's a big controversy over whether they actually burnt down these sites because they were leaving the whole site, or if they were just burning down an area of the site because they were done using that bit of the site.
And then moving on to somewhere else in the same settlement.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. But
these guys are farmers, so they've got lots of food. They've got a big I mean, today, that's the bread basket of Europe.
Yes.
The Ukraine.
It's a good place in the Neolithic to be starting up if you want to have like big settlements. You can get a lot of grains, a lot of pulses in the area.
Do we know about the landscape? Do we know, was it similar to Britain? Did they sort of burn all the forests down and kind of replace them with farms?
Don't know. It might be because I know in Britain a lot of like the deforestation was done when we started getting hold of things like bronze axes and stuff like that. I don't know is the honest answer to that. I know that this is kind of a period where they were starting to use some copper implements and tools. Possibly, I don't know if they were moving up to arsenic bronzes or bronzes towards the end of that. But yeah, it is interesting. I think we've got a picture somewhere that I sent you that was one of the kind of like what one of the settlements might have looked like in terms of the environment. That might be
Oh,
helpful.
sweet. Oh, yeah.
Have a look.
Yeah, this is a nice one. I've seen this before.
Yeah, I found this on Wikimedia Commons
Check
by
this out.
Susan Bayer, I think it's by.
They've, these people, they've got a lot of space.
Yeah,
they've got lots of space.
Yeah, they kind of made sure there was lots of like careful planning in how it was done. There was open communal areas. It seems like these big avenues, and the really remarkable thing about these settlements to me is because when you see the first big settlements appearing in other places in the world, like in Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, South America, and like that, often what you see is this rise of these urbanized settlements is correlated with the rise of urban elites as well, and a hierarchy of power and like resources going to a select few. And at least for the first part of when these mega sites started to appear, that doesn't seem to have been the case. They seem to still have been relatively like egalitarian, like the house sizes still seemed relatively the same. There's no sign of any ostentatious burials or anything like that you might find in other cultures elsewhere in this, like further to the southwest in Europe during this period. And there
isn't a sort of central citadel or something like that. There's not like a palace in the middle.
So I think in some settlements they've kind of found some structures that may have been kind of temple or ritual buildings to some extent, which we see in quite a lot of other settlements throughout this time period. But I don't think, at least in the first part of this period, they had them. There's signs that there may have been like communal areas or buildings that may have been used for communal decision making. But
the communal areas, you see that all over the Americas as well, as you were saying, in the very earliest settled cultures in the Americas, they always have the plaza at the center. It's always the plaza. So it kind of looks like, is this a plaza in the middle? It kind of looks like it.
Could be. I don't know enough about this particular site, unfortunately. I wish I did, but I
always think of it as sort of like a football stadium / church / sort of gig venue.
Because like people always think of when people say ritual events or like big communal feasts and stuff like that. It's the feasting part's going to be fun. It's going to be a celebration in some ways.
A lot of people are going along just
for religion.
They're just, some people are just going for the fun, aren't they? They're going for the food and seeing friends.
Community building. It's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, it's not. I would say it's at the very center of human society. It's the bedrock of everything. Used to be at one time thought that sort of like war and militarism brought us all together in the beginning, but like the evidence now is kind of mounting up that it was more almost peaceful than that. It's like societies coming together. Religion played a big part of it, but also just people sort of coming together to I don't know, just sort of congregate, have a good time, get to know each other, that sort of thing. It's a bit sort of nicer than we used to think it was.
Especially in other places of the world where prestige may be like tied to your ability to put on a good show, put on a good feast. So and so in the village over's putting this feast on. We'll go. You coming? Right, we'll all load up the stuff and go.
That's right. Feasts and I've got a book called Feasts actually, and it's all about that, just all over the world, and it's an archaeologist looking at the evidence in these early societies everywhere. And so what happens at the end? Am I right in thinking it's something to do with the Yamnaya, or is that?
It's controversial. What the old theory used to be that basically the Yamnaya folk from further east and moving into more Ukraine, more and more into Ukraine, they swept out the steppes and destroyed this peaceful culture. And the picture, as far as I'm aware, is more complicated now. There's a bunch of different theories. One theory is it's a case of those people moving into the area. It was kind of this synthesis where they just formed this new culture together over time. We know that in the very few burials we have from this culture, the later ones, people already seem to have some steppe ancestry, for example. So it's that's a little one of one of their houses would have been laid out.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah. So they actually made, I think, like little pottery figures of their houses as well.
Of their houses. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. The figures. I might have put one in there. Let's have a look.
I think you've got one here. Yeah.
Let's have a look. See. Yeah, there we go. So probably like some storage bins, got like a kiln or like cooking area of some sort that older houses had. And it still feels very like late Neolithic Middle Eastern to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you see these little houses all over the place. They have these on Minoan Crete as well. They do lots of models of houses. And you just, is it a dollhouse? Is it an architect's design? Like, what is it?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a dollhouse. Like if you had little figures like you could play with, a little set. Yeah. That might be an idea. I don't know. But I think they had a bit of versatility in their houses. A lot of kind of wattle and daub construction was going on as well.
And these are their tools.
Yeah. So I think most of their time it was a case of they mostly still used stone and bone and antler, as a lot of these societies did. But there was copper starting to appear around in this part of the world around that time. And I think, don't quote me on this, I think they might have independently figured out copper smelting by themselves. But I don't know.
Wouldn't be surprised. There's enough of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get enough people in one place, they're going to figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's copper, I think, in the Balkans somewhere. Could be wrong.
I'll take word on that. Yeah.
There's copper somewhere around there. So yeah, it's always interesting to me why here for the 10,000 people in a settlement, why not Britain? Because as far as I'm aware, Britain Neolithic settlements are pretty small, really.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think most of Europe until much later on doesn't really see these types of big mega sites appearing, and they're kind of a bit of an anomaly if you look at what people were doing elsewhere in Europe at the time. I mean, worldwide at the time, there's only a few other places that were doing something similar. And it's one of those things that makes me wish I knew a bit more about the exact processes behind urban development as to why did it happen here? Was it the unique abundance of resources? Was it just good location in terms of where you could plan a settlement really easy around here?
Yeah. And what was I going to say? Yeah, I suppose I wonder if, I suppose research into this area must have ground to a halt because of the war.
Possibly. Yeah, I really don't know. It's one of those things though where it may be a case of, with a lot of these things, there's been so many excavations, and obviously it's still in parts like Romania and Moldova, which aren't seeing, probably are seeing some effects from the war, but not immediate effects in the way that Ukraine is.
Yeah.
There might be archives of stuff that's still been going through and published and things like that. But I hope it.
Am I right in thinking?
Impacted.
Is it Ukraine and Romania? Does it cross the border? Isn't?
Yeah, it's quite a few different areas. Yeah,
one of the words Romanian, the other word Ukrainian.
Yeah, that's why. Because in the 19th century, I believe the Cucumeni was discovered in Romania, Cucuteni, sorry, and the Trypillia, the Trypillia were then discovered in Ukraine. And I think it was only later that people realized, these are like the same sort of cultural horizon anyway. Yeah, they've got really intricate pots. So at first I know they made it by hand coiling. And then later on they figured out the slow wheel. So it's one of the places outside of the Middle East that figured out the slow wheel first as well.
Wow. It's so cool. Yeah, I'd love to go and check out some of these places. Yeah. Big up world peace, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Ukraine's one of the places I would have loved to have gone, because the Kievan Rus and all that is fascinating as well.
Oh, it is. It's
there's just
very interesting
loads of good history over there. Yeah, nice. Well, anything else you want to say about the Cucuteni-Trypillia culture?
Not really. I think we've covered most of the bases. They had a few other things, like they had a similar, like a lot of little ritual statues of goddesses that appear that are very similar to things like what's the one of the Mesopotamian cultures prior to the Halaf culture and stuff like that have quite similar.
The Halaf culture, yeah.
Yeah, have quite similar feminine figures.
What's the one? Oh God, completely forgotten what the culture is called. The one that's in Israel and around that area, and they're super old.
Natufian?
The Natufians. Yeah, they always interest me because they're just so old. It's happened during the Ice Age.
It is. It's one of those things where it's like that kind of crossover between that almost kind of invisible crossover where people are starting to cultivate wild plants, but because the domesticated varieties haven't shown up yet, it's like you don't know to what extent they were fully cultivating it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on that note,
Here we go. This is a
we'll
good
talk
one.
about. I thought I'd talk about the Stone Hills culture, the
Yeah.
Tas Tepeler, which,
The Eartha complex.
to be honest,
yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if that's an official archaeological designation, the Tas Tepeler, because it's so new. It's such a new field, even now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a culture basically where, in many ways, things have been looked at in isolation. So lots of isolated sites. It's only really now that they're sort of being linked together, and I don't really know
put
if
together in a
there's,
chronology. Yeah.
yeah, there's not many books on it really, and there's not many articles as well, because I've sort of read all the ones that I could find. There's not a huge amount. Lots of it is in Turkish as well, so
Yeah.
that's always a barrier for me. I wish I could speak Turkish.
Yeah, same. I mean, something I really admired. I watched your as part of the prep for this, 'cause I knew you were going to do this. I watched through your Göbekli Tepe, kind of that kind of complex of different sites that have been found video again, and I hadn't realised the sheer extent and the interrelatedness of all these sites. I think you did it because I briefly touched upon them in a video I did years ago. That I touched on it for all of like maybe 25 minutes or something like that, and I was like,
Yeah,
it just makes me realize, I feel like I should redo a video on this, because you went so much more detail. You like had so much more primary footage of the sites. It was really good, and it was really nice to see the links
in
between them.
fairness to you though, you were doing, wasn't it, like much broader a topic?
Yeah.
You were doing the entire birth of civilization.
Yeah, I was going from like
So-
25,000 BC through to like the end of Göbekli Tepe in one
yeah,
go.
yeah,
It was a
which
lot.
is a massive time period, a massive geographical area as well, because this is it's one small well, I say small, it's a large geographical area, but in relative terms it's pretty small. It's a few hundred kilometers basically.
Yeah.
But in this area, I haven't got a map, because it's quite hard to find a map of this culture actually. But I think there's about 50 sites or something now, around about that numbers, and they tend to be on hilltops. Some of them aren't on hilltops, but they tend to be, and they're occupied for 3,000 or 4,000 years, which it's a long time. It's a long time.
It
And
is
at
the
the
fact that they
beginning-
kept coming back and iterating on them. That's
They did.
really strong cultural traditions going on.
Many of them are, as far as we're aware, these ritual sites where people travel to periodically. Not many people lived at them. Some people may have lived at them, but it's not a large settlement on the same scale as the ones we were just talking about. It's nothing like that. But people do come together and they come up with these absolutely extraordinary things. Mostly it's sculptures like this.
Yeah.
So the stone carving that they can do it's really impressive. It's really impressive stuff, and it's unprecedented as well.
But the time
until
period,
this point-
it's just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, up until this point, as far as I'm aware, it's kind of like this is the first example of this. There's a tradition of art going all the way deep back into the Paleolithic, but to kind of pull off things like this is at Karahan Tepe. This is one of the rooms. It's just this weird, well, to me, weird stuff going on.
It's
There's
really
this-
interesting because this is am I right in thinking, is this a precursor site? This came before Göbekli Tepe, Nivali Chori, Chayunu, etc.
It seems to be. Karahan Tepe, the sort of the news headline, I suppose, would be older than Göbekli Tepe, because it seems to be. However, all these sites overlap. They overlap considerably. But Karahan Tepe seems to have earlier origins than Göbekli Tepe.
Just interesting to me, because I'm wondering, is there, because obviously each site was iterated on and you see styles change and things like that. Do you think that this was like, some of this stuff here is like earlier kind of artworks and traditions that then flowered into different ones at different locations?
Well, I think that it goes pretty seamlessly from the Paleolithic Ice Age hunters into this. I think that this is not a beginning. This is more like an end. It's not even an end. It's just, this is a thing that they've already been doing for a long time up until this point, as far as I'm aware. The scale is upped because the resources around them are suddenly abundant. So they're suddenly surrounded by just immense amounts of animals to hunt, fish to fish, and all these new sort of
wild
grasses and plants and all sorts of stuff. Basically, there's just food everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
Because that's something I hadn't thought of until I went back and rewatched a video I'd forgotten about, was the idea that when you get to Göbekli Tepe, like the earliest enclosures are the biggest and the most elaborate, and the idea that what we're actually seeing is not, a flowering of a new way of ritual like practice in the area. It's actually a middle or even towards an end of it. Like they'd been doing it in other fashions somewhere else.
I think so.
Explains how developed it was.
Yeah, a lot of the archaeologists that look at it think so as well. But the beauty of it is there's so many different opinions of these sites, and you read one report and it'll be have a completely different idea to another one. A lot of people have gone hard on the shamanic sort of things that may have been going on, but it's ultimately quite speculative. I think it's quite convincing because you see things like they look like shape-shifting animals. They look like a human shape-shifting into a leopard or from a leopard. And then there's all sorts of other things, like the fox is supposed to be this spirit guide. There's beasts of the underworld, beasts of the upper world, and all these things that you see in the shamanic tradition all over the world. But we don't really know. That's kind of the beauty of it.
It's always the tantalizing thing about these sites is where there's just such ambiguity.
Absolutely.
To what a lot of these meant. I think,
and there's penises everywhere as well.
Yes. So many, so many places
many
have them. So much phallic imagery going on.
That's right.
Yeah, and
which is interesting because this isn't. It's like the hunting societies tend to be quite masculine focused. So it seems like it's the end of this world of the hunters to me. It's not very sort of earth mothery, which is this other tradition which eventually comes to the fore, and that's the Neolithic Europe is a bit earth mothery.
It is a bit. I think sometimes that gets a little bit overplayed. Like there's
it probably does, doesn't
like
it?
Marija Gimbutas and what you call it had a lot of theories about this idea of old Europe and the comparison of that with New Europe with the Yamnaya and stuff like that. So but you're right. There does seem to be different traditions appearing. Yeah,
she Maria Gimbutas. She's an interesting one. I'm actually a bit of a fan.
She's a really mixed figure. It's one of those ones where it's like so much of what she did was pioneering that she was kind of right on the big thing.
She was.
About her career.
She was. Yeah,
it's just the last 3 books she came out with is kind of
some of it's wacky.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like there's been some big frauds out there. There's things like the witch cult hypothesis and stuff later on that is just completely wacky, but her stuff is just a bit mixed is the way I would say. Like some stuff she said didn't really seem to match up with the evidence, but there's some good stuff in there that she
goes off script sometimes, as many of the mid 20th century. Those guys didn't necessarily like to stick to the theories of the time, and they would kind of just
freestyle.
They just riff and just go with it, see what happened. Who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Çatalhöyük guy.
Oh,
James Mellard.
James Mellard. Yeah, he went a bit.
He was
potentially.
He was potentially worse than wacky. He was potentially criminal. He was accused of forging a lot of artifacts, which is pretty wild.
Where do I put it? I've got this book by him is just a complete forgery. The whole thing.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
It just is. So I'm going to do a video at some point
made
on
it up.
Yeah. He just like made up a bunch of. I think he basically lost the rights to excavate in Turkey, and he just went a bit peculiar afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I was reading somewhere that somebody found kind of a little, basically an artifact making facility in his flat.
Yeah. He made like mock-ups of fake like images and stuff like that, and he made like a fake Bronze Age inscription to do with the late Bronze Age collapse and all sorts of stuff.
The Luwians, big on them. But so this is
back on topic.
And this is fine. We can ramble, but this is cool. I like this. This is a weird, creepy looking head, and I'm thinking, is this a deity? Is this just someone who was quite important in their society?
Someone who they wanted to remember.
Yeah, it's someone, and he's got a weird kind of grimace going on. And what else we've got? Lots of animals as well.
Yeah, so many different animals.
this is kind of similar to it's like kind of similar to cave art, you know, because it's just depicting
Yeah,
animals everywhere. But then someone's putting a lot of effort into carving one.
it
I mean,
is. It's
that's
like
pretty good. That's better than I could do.
that's way better than I couldn't
Yeah.
draw anything that good, never mind carve it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting to me as well because like as you were going on before, like saying that it was like this possibly this last flowering of kind of hunter gatherer style artwork, and the cave art parallel, I think is probably kind of an apt one where it's got that similar level of ambiguity of where like these animals are all clearly very important to these people,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
there's been
definitely.
all sorts of theories around them, like maybe it was a shamanistic theory, maybe it was sympathetic magic, all this different things, and I do think the parallel is like a very good one between the two, where we just fundamentally will probably never know, but it is very interesting. Yeah,
Until we make a time machine.
yeah, exactly. Have to be careful
Um,
who uses that. Yeah,
oh God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe it's already happened, and that's
yeah,
why
we don't know.
we're in a bit of a mess, bit of a pickle. Yes, animals very, very important to these people. They carve them absolutely everywhere.
Mm.
I've not even mentioned the T-shaped pillars.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
big T-shaped
I mean,
pillars,
the
man.
T-shaped pillars
Yeah,
are awesome. You know, these massive,
yeah.
massive pillars, and they're covered in intricate carvings as well, much more intricate than any stone circle in Europe that I know of, which always
Mm.
fascinates me because the stone circles come quite a bit later than this,
Yeah,
but they're kind of not as advanced.
yeah. I mean, I was about to say it's not quite on that level. The old quote of where people are like, "Oh, Cleopatra was closer to us than the pharaohs who built the pyramids." It's not quite that where like like we're closer to the stone circles than Göbekli Tepe, but like almost at that point in
It's
terms of
not far off. It's
how
not
far
far off.
back. Yeah,
So, yeah, Stonehenge back to Göbekli Tepe. What's that? 5,000, 6, 7,000 years. Long
yeah.
time.
It might actually be true that statement.
It may
Yeah,
actually be true. Yeah, that may
yeah.
be the one.
So
Yeah.
the main theory that I'm aware of, and I think recently they found some really good evidence of this, is that the T-shaped pillars are supposed to represent people to some extent, like stylized
They've got
figures.
arms. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This came by the way of Jens Notroff, the researcher. He
Yes.
shared a couple of weeks back on social media. They found a pillar with a face on it. Might be worth looking.
I think I've got it here.
Let's have a look.
I th- no, no, I haven't. No,
No,
this isn't
no.
it. But this is
I'll
one that
look
was
and see
found
if I
at
can.
Karahan Tepe. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
I know
see
what
if I
you're
can find
talking
it.
about. This is the amazing thing. They're constantly finding new things because, contrary to what some conspiracy theorists say,
Hmm.
they're constantly digging.
Yeah, they're not hiding
Archaeology is
anything.
constantly going on. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're finding new things every week. You know, when they're
yeah.
digging. So
Just go
every
and
summer
have a
they're
look
digging.
at the Tepe Telegrams website and stuff
Mm.
like that. There's tons of stuff on there. You can just go and see, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
constant
yeah.
articles churning
Absolutely.
out. Yeah,
It's constantly happening. So yeah, Göbekli Tepe, absolutely fascinating. This is
yeah,
one called Chianu, which is another site,
yeah,
which it doesn't have the T-shaped pillars, but it's got a lot of other markers of this society.
yeah,
This is a little bit later as well, which is interesting. And you mentioned Navali Chori earlier. That's a little bit later as well. So
yeah.
that's when people are starting to settle down. They're starting to live
Starting to
in.
move their ritual buildings into their settlements. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah. So they're starting to have towns, basically little villages and towns, and it's sort of yeah, the age. I mean, they're still hunting, but they are now
yeah,
conducting agriculture as well. So it really is in this area the birth of agriculture and society. But then the way that the Neolithic works is there's often these little mini collapses where things happen, and then for some reason everything's just sort of
yeah.
destroyed, and then they start
Bad
again a
grass
bit
harvest
later.
that year. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
But I think, is disease to play? Does disease play a part
Yeah,
as well? There was that
especially now
study.
that we're concentrating people together. Yeah,
There was that study fairly recently about the Neolithic in Britain and how disease may have played a part in the end of it. And yeah, it does make me think, particularly in the mega sites we were talking about, all those people coming together. There's got to be some sort of bubonic plague or something going on.
yeah. One theory is that it was like environmental collapse or disease, and
Mm,
it's really kind of hard to. I wish I'd had more. I'd read more into it. Like that is one of the theories of how that ended. But yeah, you are right though. As soon as you start packing more and more people into these places, the more and more like the easier it becomes suddenly to transmit a disease compared with where
pretty
you had like
much,
a more dispersed group of hunter gatherers. Yeah,
pretty much. And then most of these Tas Tepeler sites, if not all of them, I think, just come to an end basically, because there's kind of like something happens and they don't recover from it.
Yeah.
And then the people disperse. They may go a little bit pastoralist for a little bit, and then eventually they reform somewhere else.
That's kind of what happened to, I think that's what happened to the Natufians and the people around Jericho a bit as well, isn't it? Where they split up into smaller bands and more pastoral,
that's right,
hardier animals.
Because once you've domesticated the animals, the goats and the sheep and that, you can kind of just go off with them. So your life is completely altered. It's a new way of life than people have lived before. But yeah, just things become a bit different for a time. The rise and fall. It just goes on forever. Yeah.
It's one of those things like when people are like, oh, this thing could happen which could wipe out humanity. I'm like, look at all these other environmental things we've survived. Like
we're like cockroaches.
We'll just change and become more dangerous. That's what we do.
You can't get rid of us.
Yeah.
You don't get rid of humans. Not until everything's completely destroyed.
Yeah.
And even then we'll survive.
We're at the end of the heat, like at the heat death universe, and there'll still be some guy complaining about his coffee order.
Yeah. Pretty much. All right, awesome. Let's go to the next one then.
Yep.
So chronologically, we're moving through. What would be next? What's your next one?
I'm trying to remember which ones I even picked at this point.
I suppose it's the early dynastic period, so that follows on quite nicely. So we have an interlude of what 6,000 years or something.
Wow, yeah.
And then no, less than that. Tas Tepeler comes to an end around 8,000 BC ish.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit later, and then early dynastic period, 4,000 BC?
Yeah, so this is kind of this is about 1,000 years after the Cucuteni-Trypillia Culture.
Look at these.
This is
the
third millennium
Magnificent.
BCE. This is the city of Kish in like southern central Iraq now, Mesopotamia, and the early dynastic.
I look
period,
at this and I'm like. Absolutely beautiful, but I think a lot of people would look at that and they'd say, "What the hell? What is this?" Yeah.
Yeah, it's all falling apart, mate. Yeah. No, this is like, this was in the third millennium BCE. This whole area of southern Iraq, central Iraq, was just teeming with little city-states fighting each other. This is the period that a lot of people offhand will call Sumeria, and I think the reason I picked Kish as my first, like the first image I sent to you from this, is there's kind of these multiple different periods of the early dynastic period. There's early dynastic 1, which we don't know a huge amount about. There's early dynastic 2, which we know a bit more about. And there's early dynastic 3, which is where most of what we know about comes from. And Kish is one of these cities where it was probably the most prominent during the early dynastic 1, going by its size in the archaeological period. It probably ruled over quite a big area of central and possibly even into southern Mesopotamia, and it had this weird coattail to it, which is the title of King of Kish.
I was going to say King of Kish. That's where I've heard of it. Yeah.
After Kish stopped being a major power and was like usurped by all these other little dynasties from all these other little city-states in the Mesopotamian plain, for some reason the title of King of Kish just became like the sign of almost like universal rulership, or the associated title of King of the Land of the area. And you get monarchs from all over Mesopotamia claiming to be King of Kish, going all the way up to when, what's his name, Sargon shows up and takes over. He makes a point of saying, I'm King of Kish. Like, I have this transference of legitimacy.
Is it like Holy Roman Emperor?
Yeah, I think...
I just thought, because Charlemagne claims that, and then a couple of hundred years later, a bunch of other Germans claim it.
Yeah,
and it's sort of, they've got nothing to do with the Roman Empire.
I think it could be analogous to like the Holy Roman Empire when the Franks were starting to try and tie themselves to the Western Roman Empire's tradition. Maybe a bit analogous to that. I think would be a good.
Charlemagne conquers Rome basically, and then he's like, "I'm the Holy Roman Emperor."
Yeah,
so could just because of the prestige of the past, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a good idea. Like if you're associating yourself with the previous dynasty, adding your adding to your legitimacy and saying this is how it's always been. There's always been the King of Kish, and it happens to be me.
Yeah. So the Kish was super important then. That's
it was.
I hadn't quite clocked that.
There was probably a bad habit as well of people being like, "I'm King of Kish," and then he never actually went anywhere near Kish or owned it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like
Come on, Barry.
yeah,
you run one town.
like yeah, like you're the governor of Umma. You're the consolation
Yeah,
prize
yeah,
of
yeah. Yeah.
Mesopotamian kings, mate. Yeah,
Barry, governor of
yeah,
Umma.
yeah. Yeah, but no, it was a good one that kicked like that title kicked around for quite a while. It appeared on Sumerian King list that we're gonna have a look at as one of the
Yeah, shall I do this
founding.
one? I'll put
Yeah,
this one on the Sumerian King. Oh, I love the Sumerian King list.
yeah. It's
Classic,
such
classic.
a bizarre document when you
Oh
come down
yeah,
to
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah. What's the
there's not.
longest reigning ruler on there? Do you know
Oh,
off
it's
the
like
top of your head?
thousands, maybe tens of
Yeah,
thousands of years from the early rulers on
and it
there.
would be
Like,
like the first king ruled for 10,000 years or whatever. The
yeah,
second ruled for 5,000, and yeah,
yeah. It's a more of a political document than an actual like living document that actually recorded accurate history. Maybe outside of the final like sections of it, and very broadly, we have some rulers where we have like seal inscriptions and stuff that are on this like on this list. We know that the fact that they existed and that they were added onto this list, but there's like different competing versions of this list. Later dynasties maybe compose their own lists to make themselves look legitimate and stuff like that. So I just thought
would
it's a
they be
fun
taking the
one.
original and then writing themselves into it?
Possibly. I know the oldest version comes from the Earth-free period, which is end of the third millennium after Sargon and the Akkadians and all that. And that's a very different document from the later ones. That one's like, oh, the first dynasty is like Kish rather than Eridu. There's a lot less dynasties on it. So, but
Yeah,
this to me is a useful document to kind of envision how they saw their society. It's like this set of like warring city states where individual dynasties from these states like occasionally achieved supremacy over different people and became the most influential ruler in the land. I think that's a kind of a good way of seeing these parts of history where we don't really have that much actual written information to go on because not it wasn't until like 2600 BC whatever that we actually start to get lots of writing again to let us know what was going on and that sort of thing.
so the writing begins. When does writing begin exactly?
So writing in Mesopotamia begins in Uruk 4 of the Uruk preceding Uruk culture. That's when proto-cuneiform starts to show up, as far as I'm aware. And then I can't remember off the top of my head whether or not there's an interruption because you get more developed writing appearing in Uruk 3, which is kind of like getting into a period after the Uruk period called the Jemdet Nasser, where Uruk stopped being like this single hegemonic city within the area,
Yeah,
and the other states started to assert themselves on the Mesopotamian plain. But it's kind of you do get scattered bits of it reappearing throughout the early dynastic period, and then eventually it starts to come back in a major force as an administrative tool and things like that. That may be the false perception because we're only going by what's survived, and a lot of the writing was
yeah,
done on tablets that just they weren't fired clay, so
yeah,
they're just gone.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of these tablets only survive because of their destruction.
yeah.
So, like the
Similar
entire
in
library at Nineveh,
like
which was the
yeah,
library was burned to the ground, and that's the only reason why anything survives. So, anyone who was doing well and didn't lose their library in a big fire, we've lost it.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I think there may be major figures of history that we don't know about just because the records from that period it was such a stable period that the records have all been reused. And maybe we've just got statues and stuff like that left of them now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Uruk was ludicrously powerful for a time,
yeah,
right?
it
They
was.
essentially had what it looks like a little bit of an empire going.
They kind of did it. It's kind of an early example of what I'd call a cultural horizon rather
Yeah,
than
there you go.
uh rather
That's a fancier term than
yeah,
empire.
rather than just being a culture in and of yourself. It's like
Yeah,
where you have this core region, which in its
yeah,
case was Uruk and maybe the Mesopotamian plain and the
yeah.
other cities around it, where Uruk was clearly predominant. Maybe had some sort of military force over them. More likely was
Mm,
just so powerful economically that you kind of had to deal with Uruk no matter who you were or what you were doing.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Of course, they had a
And
god king, Gilgamesh, with
yes,
his companion, the wild man
yeah,
Enkidu, and
thank
they're
you.
the ones who did it, of course, because they
Yeah,
went
of course,
forth and single-handedly took on what is it? The
pacify the land.
giant. They fight a giant
Mbaba.
in sort of Lebanon, don't they? Like in the cedar forest. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool though, isn't it? Because there's a little bit of, the myth in the archaeology. I mean, it's obviously not the same, but
Yeah.
they were going to those areas.
They were very much like that. Was Lebanon, very important area because there's not a great
Yeah.
deal of tall trees on the Mesopotamian plains. So Lebanon's got trees. Like you got to deal with Lebanon if you want that for big construction projects. Then
That's right. Yeah.
like
Yeah,
if you're in like or Uruk or Lagash or any of these cities and you want to build a big temple complex, it'd be really handy to have some big cedar trees.
You've got to get the cedar trees. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then later on, the pharaohs always went after them as well.
Yeah, because it was just had resources they wanted. And it's an understandable relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the Earth 3 period is another interesting one as well, because there's quite a lot of writing, I think, from that time, if I'm right. Yeah. And it's a bit
quite a
more advanced writing.
State. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we first see the emergence of writing in the early dynastic period, we can tell that there's already two big languages that has been written and spoken, and that's Sumerian and what was then Proto-Akkadian and became Akkadian. And then I think by the time we move to the Earth 3 period, that's like the last time that Sumerian is a major force as like a written, like beyond being a written language. And then it becomes like almost like Latin after that, like a prestigious, like ritual or important language that people use occasionally, but not a living language anymore. Yeah,
not the day to day. Because then it just gets more confusing, doesn't it? And more complicated. Because then the Amorites come in and they seize power in Babylon, and the Assyrians come along, and just yeah. But then we're talking thousands of years.
Oh yeah.
So of course these things are going to happen. And you could say the Amorites, they might be, well, they start off as pastoralist herders. So maybe they're the descendants of the people from Göbekli Tepe.
They came from like the west, didn't they?
They came, kind of the western deserts. Yeah. Western deserts.
Yeah.
So like, I think sort of Syria-ish, round about that area. Yeah,
that sounds about right from what I remember. Yeah.
It's been a while since I've dabbled in this kind of thing. My Akkadians video was about 4 years ago now. I absolutely love that time period, though.
Yeah,
same. So fascinating.
I'm thinking of going back and doing like a dedicated, because I've done 3 or 4 videos that talk about the Sumerians. Like I did one that talked about the Royal Cemetery at Ur and all the artifacts and burial stuff that's been found there. I've been kind of feeling like, I think I put one in, didn't I? That's of I'll
get the ziggurat.
Oh yeah, give you a good idea. These like the ritual ziggurats. I think that's actually from the Earth 3 period later on. But this
was restored by Saddam Hussein, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. He did this. He did Babylon. So
big up Saddam.
But he
maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not on that one. Not quite with you on that one.
Yeah.
But like when this was being excavated in like the late 1920s and stuff like that, it was in a much more ruined state. Yeah.
Yes, but it's great because you get an idea of what they all looked like originally, because it's all mud brick and it does crumble. I mean, it lasts for a generation, but then it crumbles.
Yeah, you'd have to rebuild your house. Like it wasn't.
That's right. Yeah. I spoke to an archaeologist about this actually, though, and we were discussing the mud brick architecture, and he was saying that the things they were capable of in mud brick would just blow our minds. We can't do it today. We're just not as good at this mud brick architecture. They were just insanely good at making things with mud brick.
It's just lost knowledge. It's like remember people posting about how there's certain ways that people made windows in medieval cathedrals that are just lost.
Yeah,
like we just don't know how they did it.
How the hell did you do this? I mean, it's just tinkering away, isn't it? And then someone gets the idea, but it's not an obvious idea.
Yeah, hundreds of years of just tinkering. Yeah.
What else have we got? We've got some artifacts here. Oh, this is the Victory Stele. It's the Stele of the Vultures.
The Stele of the Vultures. This is so this belongs to a guy called, is it Erlitou? Was the guy's name?
Of Lagash.
Yeah, and this kind of shows you the way that like a Sumerian king may have waged war there with his spearmen. He's got his war wagon.
It's almost a bit of a phalanx. It's not quite, but it's
it's
phalanx light.
The way it's depicted, it feels very much of that sort of style of warfare.
And then here's, unfortunately, the victims over here. Just small, probably naked, trampled.
Yeah. I think on the other side, there's like a big thing of a gourd that has more of them in a big net and stuff like that. Yeah. It's a cool thing. I think I believe he had this erected.
As well. Oh,
Yeah.
they're very much, they're walking on the corpses.
Yeah, walking on the corpses.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
It does make me wonder if, like, if the bottom row had survived, would we be seeing more of that going on underneath his wagon and stuff like that? Yeah.
It's a bit Assyrian-esque.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, yeah. They were into war, or at least they
very much
depicted
were.
themselves as being into war. It's
Is
this projection of power, isn't it?
It is. It's like this prestige and legitimacy, because
Yeah.
this is to commemorate. I think this is his victory over Umma, the city of Umma, because Lagash and Umma had like this notorious rivalry over this one bit of land.
Yes, I remember,
kept-
and they just fought never-ending war
Yeah.
over generations.
Forever war.
Then they're both conquered.
Yeah, and then Lugal Zaghazi shows up, and it's
He
like,
just comes
oh.
along and just comes along and just takes both their lands.
Actually, Lugal Zaghazi was from Umma initially, so he
Oh,
won.
was he?
He finished it.
He finished it. He finished
The,
it.
the,
Yeah.
the answer was Umma won of this long.
Is he the guy
Running
who Sargon comes along
Yeah.
and gets rid of? Yeah, because Sargon puts him in a. He ends up in a not very nice position. I think Sargon
Yeah.
puts him in like a dog
Like a neck cage of some
neck
type.
cage thing, and then like
Yeah.
drags him along, and he's really, it's like a Roman triumph.
It
Yeah.
is. Like, there's a
Nasty
good
end to
depiction of it.
Lugal Zaghazi. Yeah.
It's really bad because like he'd unified all of like Sumeria, like the lower part of Mesopotamia, and then just this other guy just swoops in and destroys him.
Sargon comes in from the north and says,
Yeah,
"Oh, thanks very much. I'll take that."
yeah. Wait, what? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And then he keeps much of the infrastructure and administration intact.
Yeah.
So
King of
clever,
Kish.
really.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, very cool. And the last picture,
yeah. Some of the artwork from the period,
beautiful,
this
absolutely beautiful.
war side of the Royal Standard of
Yeah.
This is
Again, it's people, like in chains, being walked along,
Is it
this guy
Lapis
appears-
Lazuli, the blue stuff?
not having a great time.
Yeah.
Yes, lapis lazuli, I would call it, but
Lazuli,
I'm
that's
probably
it.
butchering the pronunciation as I normally
Yeah,
do.
I don't know. I constantly have people telling me, "Oh, you pronounce X wrong." I'm like, "Okay, sorry. I can't actually do anything now about that."
No, exactly.
Video
People always say, correct the video. It's like, can't.
can't. The YouTube
Can't
doesn't
do
have that functionality. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. But I suppose
Yeah.
it's worth mentioning the scale of the trade network of
Yeah.
This period in particular. I think this is the 3 period. Is that right?
No, this is like kind of the middle of the early dynastic.
Oh, this
period.
is
This is-
cool. Well, even then, they've got the lapis lazuli. They had carnelian beads
Yeah.
coming in from the other side of the world,
Gypsum.
diorite coming in from like Oman, things
Yeah.
coming from the Indus Valley civilization in what is now India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
All over the world, really. And then there's the lapis lazuli mines are up in Afghanistan, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So they'd have to go through the Persian plains
Ah.
and plateau.
traveling.
Yeah, I mean, they've always had, like, going back to the Paleolithic times, it's always been surprising to me how big the trade networks have always kind of been. Because it's, you'd think, oh, people don't travel that far a distance. It's like, yeah, but what's actually happening is it's going from kind of one village to the next in a
Yeah.
lot of places. It's not necessarily someone going the whole distance. It's
But
like
even
a
so,
ferrying
it's-
system. Yeah,
It's fascinating seeing the whole interconnectedness of it, and you never know. One person may have gone, half the distance, maybe
Yeah.
if they were feeling adventurous, or maybe even
Oh, yeah,
the whole
like-
way. Because just to completely, it's later to go to the Middle Ages. Jewish people would have kind of like this massive network all across Europe, all across Asia, and they'd have like a brother in the next town. They'd have a friend in the next village. They'd have a friend in the next town along, and people really could travel the entire length of
Yeah.
this trade network, and it went all around Eurasia basically. And I do wonder if there was something like that in the ancient world.
Yeah,
You've got to
I wouldn't
contact
be
somewhere,
surprised.
and then someone else can put you up somewhere else, and
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there's a guy in each like area is known for, oh, he runs the trade in
Yeah,
this thing over
that's
here.
right, that's
There's an EA Nasser in every village. Yeah,
Exactly. And if
Yeah.
you're somebody like Ibn Battuta, someone with the charisma of a guy like that, or a Marco Polo, you're
Yeah.
able to just keep going.
Yeah.
And then you become an oddity and a curiosity, and you might be introduced to a king or something.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
Might meet Mansa Musa or someone. Yeah,
there we go. Yeah. And this is the sort of thing that I could talk about all day.
yeah. It's the thing. I know we've only gone through like 3 of these in
We've
the
done
last
like
hour,
a couple of them.
but we could just talk about these forever in circles. Is the
Exactly.
problem?
We'll get there. All right. I'll move on a bit. In fact, I'm gonna. Well, okay. Meanwhile,
opposite side of the world, yeah.
opposite side of the world. Meanwhile, we're going to go to Japan, and we're going to go to the Jomon culture. So this is one of my favorite archaeological cultures. I absolutely love these guys. They live in huts like this, very
pit
unassuming,
houses.
like nice little houses. And these are Japanese hunter-gatherers, basically. So the Ice Age ends, and 12,000 BC, 11,000 BC. These guys are in Japan, and for some reason, they have really good pottery from the very beginning, which is quite unusual for a hunter-gatherer society.
Yeah.
Göbekli Tepe, for example, they're pre-pottery Neolithic, so they do everything that they did without having any sort of pottery. For some reason, the Jomon culture not only have pottery, but they make these absolutely extraordinary things. This is a little bit later than like 12,000 BC.
Yeah.
But this pot here is still quite early. This is like, 4,000 BC, something like that. And it's like, look at this thing. It's
incredible,
completely
yeah.
mad.
I'm just
This
going
is
to my
a
notes.
flame pot.
I'm aware that pottery originated so much earlier in East Asia than it did anywhere else in the world. Like
Really
the
did.
earliest stuff in China, I think, is about 16,000 BCE, something like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like,
So
and
it's-
it's really crude, but they got
But
it.
it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
Someone or some group came up with the idea, and then it spread. Seems to have happened anyway.
Yeah.
But so this is
for a long time. You're right. This was thought to be the oldest pottery in the world. Was Jomon culture pottery?
It
Yeah.
was.
It's
And
only-
it keeps getting older.
Yeah.
And they get really good at it. They get just really skilled at making these things.
Oh,
But
wow, look at the
probably my
figures, yeah.
favorite things that the Jomon make
Oh wow.
are these things called dogu. So they're these little miniatures, and there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these things. And they've got such character. Like this one, he's got this sort of he's like, ooh, like he's got this sort of
Got the
that
angry
interesting
eyebrows.
expression. Yeah, that interesting expression. Which it might be this might be a mask actually that he's wearing. Because these masks have been found. So he might be wearing this kind of ritual mask, and there's this sort of strange expression. He might be in a trance of some sort.
Yeah.
It might be a kind of like a religious thing going on, because he
kind of-
looks like he's kind of in some sort of devotion pose or something like this.
I was trying to work out
actually,
looking at him. Is he like?
It's not a him.
looking- Oh, her.
It's not a him.
Ah, okay.
I'm sorry, all the ladies out there. This is a lady.
Oh wow.
This is a lady. I've seen this in person, and I can assure you that it's a lady. It's got lady parts, which makes it even more interesting.
Yeah, I'm wondering about like the patterns on like the knees and like the arms and stuff like that. I don't know if that's supposed to be clothing, scarring, tattoos.
Yeah.
What could it be? Yeah.
Who knows? And then this one's even more kind of strangely stylized. Terrible image of it. But this is
Yeah,
another,
that kind of gets it. Yeah, that gets it a bit better. Yeah. Oh, that's much better.
and this is a different one. So this is a style of these. They look like spacemen, and ancient astronauts theorists had a field day when I think Eric von Daniken, when he found out about this, he thought that's a spaceman. I mean, it's just an awesome carving, but it's a strange one, isn't it? Yeah, there's these
Yeah, the way
symbols all over it.
The hands are stylized and the feet.
Yeah,
It's almost
what's
like
what's going on with the hands?
it's almost like it's being amputated or something. Yeah, it's strange.
And another interesting facet of these is that a lot of the time they are found with a piece missing. So for some reason, a piece has been broken off and the rest has been deposited. So did somebody want to keep like a piece of the offering for some symbolic reason? Who knows? But many of them, I think most of them actually, have been found with a piece missing.
It reminds me a little bit of where, like in parts of Europe
Another one
during
here.
the late Bronze Age and the Iron Age, where people would deliberately break ritual offerings before they
Yes,
kind of threw them away.
it's been likened to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like breaking the pots and things like that. So yeah, this is some of them are like, they remind me of the Venuses from the Ice Age.
Yes.
But it's so uniquely Japanese as well. It's just
You're right. I do love the facial expression, like how they've bothered to model both nostrils and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
yeah. And it's just
Pin
there's just the thing I like about the Jomon period, and I think a lot of Japanese people like this as well, is that seems to be quite peaceful. People are having quite a nice time. There's lots of natural resources in Japan that they could eat. So they weren't stuck for food. And they have these quite large settlements that form these ceremonial centers as well form, a little bit like the Tas Tepeler, I suppose. They have these areas where they go and they do their religious things, and then they live separately to that. And they have stone circles.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because
Which
I'm
is
just
crazy.
familiar with kind of the domestic arrangements with them. I didn't know anything about this side of things. Yeah.
They're not quite the same as the stone circles, say, in Neolithic Europe, because they really are just small stones, smallish stones. It would be, you could only carry one. Like they're heavy, but you could carry one by yourself, and they're arranged in these massive circles, basically. And people would be buried there. They have little sundials have been found at these places and things like this. So they were doing something to do with astronomy, it seems. And they are usually lined up to mountains as well. So you can there'll be a large mountain generally next to one of these things. And there's something to do with that. It's something to do with the site of it on the landscape, where it is. And
so it's not just a place chosen at random. There is a
not a
purpose
place.
behind.
There's a purpose behind it. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of Japanese people like it because it's quite peaceful. After the Jomon period, basically, Japanese history is just war. Like, it just never-ending war, basically, which is fascinating in itself, but kind of like...
Yeah.
This period only ends it's like the late BC. So 300 BC, something like that, is when rice arrives in Japan. So late.
It is.
So up until that period, people are living kind of like a nice existence, really. There's not much warfare.
My vague memory is as well, like when the rice does show up, I think it's introduced by people moving out of China into Korea and then into Japan.
That's right.
Well.
That's right. And they're actually, I think, fleeing wars when they come to Japan.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Because that's the Yayoi period, and then essentially the Kofun period comes out of that, which is the one where they have the massive keyhole tombs. If you've seen them at all.
Yes, I've seen those. Those are really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the sheer I don't know if that's a case of because again you look at the size of the Kofun and you think, oh, this must so much manpower to build. Is that a case of we look at it with our modern eyes and think, oh, it would have been so hard to build back then, but actually they really knew what they were doing and it would have been less work than we think?
A bit of both. It was for sure an investment in resources, but it's an investment in resources in the same way that a Maya pyramid would be an investment of resources. It's very doable. It wouldn't be like you're not doing it at the detriment of everything else. You just do it alongside.
You're not stopping society to do it.
No,
you're just sending your specialists to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there's an argument as well that it was those times when people came together. That's when things were done. Politics would happen, and maybe people would meet each other and things. And you're also, if you're taking part in a big building event like that, you're impressing everybody around you, and you're showing you might get a promotion or whatever. You might impress your boss, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at this point, Japan is very egalitarian. Later on, when the Kofun comes in, when rice comes in, I should say, and metal comes in, almost immediately it becomes very top down. But the Jomon period is just it doesn't seem to be powerful political leaders. There's probably religious leaders instigating things like this, but it's a very different society to the one that comes later. And I think it's popular in Japan. There's a lot of museums dedicated to the Jomon period specifically, and a lot of investment in it. And I think people like it just because it's almost like a fairy tale land of far away, when things were nice. And let me show you some more of these dogu as well. And then there's loads of just fun anime versions of them as well, all over Japan.
Pokemon made from them, yeah.
Yeah. So you see this all over the place.
That's always the thing.
I think these actually are Pokemon, aren't they?
Yeah. Like you never know Pokemon
when
you see them. It's like, what's this? Okay, what's this in Japanese culture that this is specifically based on? That me as an ignorant Westerner thinks it's just a cool design. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I've got a specific image, but I know that it's inspired a lot of The Legend of Zelda as well. and just like loads of modern things in Japan are kind of
Yeah.
inspired by this ancient stuff. Oh, here's another nice one of a woman with a mask.
Hmm.
So it's
Oh,
a
wow.
slightly different version of the one I showed you earlier, but it's kind of a similar style.
Almost looks like she has like an amulet or something hanging down between her breasts, or
Yeah,
something like
you
a
can just
necklace, maybe.
imagine the sort of stuff going on at these ritual
Yeah.
gatherings when they come together, wearing these masks, playing music. Yeah, they found loads of musical instruments as well all over the place.
Yeah.
So they would play music, they would come together, they would feast on all of the wild produce that they found. Yeah,
Because people tend not to think about the Neolithic and Paleolithic. They were full of instruments. Like they had
yeah,
instruments.
yeah.
They knew what they were doing with them. Yeah.
So much music. Yeah, so much music going on. And this is one dogu, but on top of just a pile of broken pieces of other dogu.
Yeah.
But it just seems to be a thing that everyone did. Everyone
Yeah.
was making these things because some of them are very primitive. Other ones are
The
complete
trading cars to
masterpieces.
this day. Yeah.
Yeah, seems to be. Yeah, and they're all just all
wow.
over the place. Just
Yeah,
really
all the
cool.
different
Some of my
little
favourite
tiles.
ancient art. This is. It really is.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm really glad that you picked this because I didn't know about any of this. I knew about
Yeah, no.
Jomon in terms of like, oh, they
Have a
have
look
this
at it.
housing style that spread to other like that is related to other areas of Asia. I'll go and have a look at these, I think.
Yeah, I suppose the housing styles is maybe the most boring bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing.
Because if we were just looking at basing on their houses, they're not wildly
Yeah, fairly standard
Impressive.
Paleolithic housing.
just standard hunter gatherers really. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's just the things they were doing in those houses, or I suppose
Yeah.
outside the houses. Here's another one.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know where this is, but this is just
Is that a museum?
it's the sort of thing that you see. It
Yeah.
could be a museum. This could be just like a town hall or something.
Yeah.
Because they're just really into their history in Japan.
I like
Yeah.
to think that the statue was already there and they built the building around it.
Hopefully, yeah. Oh, but yeah, there we go. That's that. Let's move on to the next one. We'll get a bit of a pace, so we can
Yeah.
actually get through them all.
I went ahead and did a bunch of reading on each of them, and now I'm like, maybe I should have done less reading.
Oh no! You can speak as long as you like.
No, it's all right.
You can do the speaking for both of us.
Have a look, see.
Should we do China?
Yeah, we might as well because it's
I think
kind of
that's-
connected.
I think that's the next chronologically, just about.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
kind of that.
nice.
It's just before the Mycenaean period. So yeah, this is the Erlitou
The
culture.
Yellow River.
Yeah, on the Yellow River Valley, kind of the central Yellow River Valley. And it's an interesting one. So if anyone doesn't know, this is a culture from about, I'd say early second millennium BC, like 1900 sort of territory running through about 1600, 1500. And this is a culture, this is kind of a controversial culture in Chinese history for other reasons we can get into later. But this is kind of the first time that in China there were kind of proto-states and like fortified sites that clearly had like a single elite and things like that. But this is the first time we get something similar to what happened with Uruk in in Mesopotamia, where you have a cultural horizon and you have this core area where one center seems to dominate, and this was the site of Erlitou. And it's a very interesting culture. It's a lot of the reason it gets airplay is because in the kind of order of China's traditional dynasties, people probably more familiar like the imperial dynasties, things like your Qin dynasty, the first Qin dynasty, the Han dynasty, Tang dynasty, Song dynasty, the later Qin dynasty, things like that. This is all before that in that kind of traditional framework, and
It's before the Shang.
Yes, it's before the Shang. So you kind of going back before you get your first imperial dynasty, which is Qin. Before that, you had the very long Zhou dynasty, spelled Z-H-O-U, or Chou dynasty. My Chinese pronunciation is awful.
Joe
and
is
then-
right, I think. Mine is terrible
Yeah.
as well, but
Yeah.
Joe.
And then before that, you have the Shang dynasty, which is like the first archaeologically attested dynasty, where we actually have some writing, where we know at least the later part of the Shang dynasty is historically. Maybe some of the later records might be a bit dubious, but they got things like the names of the kings right and stuff like that in later records. Then Erlitou, before that, there's no writing. This is before writing. And this is generally associated with the Shah dynasty of in Chinese history, which is held to be China's kind of original, like, first dynasty in their traditional history. And there's a huge chunk of controversy over whether Erlitou is that place or not, basically.
So it exists in the mythic records of later dynasties, but it's not 100% confirmed that this is the place.
It doesn't show up and being mentioned anywhere until the Zhou dynasty. And the Zhou dynasty kind of mostly uses it as like the reason we legitimately overthrew the Shang dynasty is because the Shang dynasty had done the same to these guys, and that's where the Mandate of Heaven idea starts to appear.
Right. Okay.
Very roughly. But
so there's no oracle bone inscriptions or anything like that in Erlitou?
There are symbols from the time that have been inscribed on various like tokens and on pottery and other things like that, but there's not a full written writing system yet, as far as I'm aware, from like the Western resources that I have available on this.
But it covers an expanse of it's quite a massive land.
Well,
it's covering.
It's kind of a bit like Uruk in that regard, where there's this huge central like location at Erlitou that's like a 300-hectare site or something like that, where you have signs of a really specialized city with like rulers, specialized areas for manufacturing, residences, all this sort of stuff going on. And then there's all these other settlements around it that have similar pottery and ritual bronzes and all these other like tool making styles and things like that. But the real question is like how much of a military force was used here to keep things in line, because their society doesn't. There are weapons that have been found, but it doesn't seem to be like a hugely militarized society or anything like that.
Interesting. It's before bronze.
So this is just when bronze is showing up in China. This is like the first big bronze culture. This is like the first big Bronze Age culture in China, and they kind of invented the idea of ritual bronzes. So having like bronze tripods and other items that are sacred items used in ritual behavior. For example,
I thought that originated in the Shang for some reason. That's amazing.
No, this is all stuff showing up in that period. I think there's some pictures of the site and their pottery as well.
Oh yeah, let's get some different images on.
So
here we go. Okay, so
this is one of their tripods.
18th century BC.
Yeah, this is one of their tripods that they would have used, and this was probably used in a ceremonial drinking vessel. Going by the documentation that was with this image.
Oh yeah. What would they be drinking?
I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know if it was like a specific beverage or if it was like water that just had this sacred role, sacred source.
Yeah. It could be they've had wine.
I know that alcohol was in China by at least the middle Neolithic, going by what I remember.
It would be in this area, it would be beer and things, wouldn't it? Because it's quite a wheat heavy area.
Yeah, millet heavy area, so like millet beers and like rice beers and stuff like that.
I often think of China to do with rice, but that's actually only a part of China. That's actually the south of China, isn't it? The rice growing area.
Yeah, and like the area of China that was rice growing, as the climate changed over the course of it, like the Neolithic and moving into the more historical period, like where rice was growing moved up and down China to some extent.
Oh, right.
And yeah. Because people forget China, northern China is almost like desert, steppe plateaus, stuff like that. And then you go all the way down to South China and it's like tropical.
Yeah. Like it's a swamp.
Yeah. And at certain times, like it was more of a swamp than others, moving up to the Yangtze River Valley and in the south and stuff like that. And that's actually like one of the ways they may have kind of inadvertently made like alcohol is they accidentally made put all the stuff for it together in one location, and then due to the weather being left in the humid conditions kind of was one of the ways that they started fermenting stuff.
Oh, it just sort of accidentally happened.
Yeah.
Like elephants sometimes eat fermented fruit by accident.
Yes.
And then just go on rampages because they're smashed.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So
this is
a big old place.
This is Erlitou itself. It's one of the several areas that have been excavated. It's a big area, and I think it's partially under a modern city.
There's the perfunctory tower blocks and industry in the background
in the area.
Big power
and it's one of these it's one of these where it's a huge site and it's kind of hard to like ever fully excavate the whole thing. China's done some monumental excavations
Oh
on some
yeah,
of their
yeah, yeah.
sites,
Massively so.
like
Massively
on
so.
on a level of Göbekli Tepe and stuff like places like Lo Shan, whatever it's called in the south. And they're like
Liangshu.
yeah, and like they sometimes are doing things like that. They're fighting against like the river to
Yes.
reclaim and dig this stuff up as well. They're having to put like big
Yes.
barricades in because they're all some of this stuff survived because it was submerged in boggy areas. But so this, I think, actually, I don't know. I'm not going to say it because I don't know. But basically, the Erlitou site is also marked out by the emergence of like these big palaces that you would associate with later China. And these started out initially kind of as more utilitarian residence sort of areas. And then they
Mm.
eventually started to become more exclusive and more maybe had ritual. They probably had ritual components all along, but they became more less accessible to anyone outside of like the ruling family and higher ups of society. And it was an incredibly stratified and hierarchical society by this point. Yeah.
Yes. Everything that I see, or everything I've read about China seems that it's quite stratified from early on, which is really
Yeah.
interesting. So as soon as these states form, it's very top down. There's a place
Yeah.
called Liangshu Ancient City. I don't know if you know that. It's near
Yeah. It's in the
Hangzhou.
south,
It's
isn't
in the
it? Yeah.
south. Another big place like
Mm.
this, and it's almost a bit Mesoamerican in a way because they've
It
got
is got big
pyramids,
platforms. Yeah.
and they even do things like human sacrifice,
Yeah.
and it's intense,
It
and it's
is.
this massive, massive place. It's
There
on a
is
scale that won't be seen in Europe for like 1,000 years to come. It's
yeah.
tens of thousands of people all
Because
in one place.
there's kind of like you're right, like Liangzhu, like the city and the culture around it. That's one of there's kind of three areas. There's one area that's further up the Yangtze River, the name of which I forget now. And then there's the Longshan culture in the Yellow River Valley. And it's kind
Yeah.
of these three kind of proto-urban societies.
Mm,
And it just happens to be that the Longshan is the one which seems to have translated into an actual true urban society. And for whatever reason, the other two just didn't. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Another one,
Until much
like
later
the
on. Yeah.
Tas Tepeler sites that just ended,
Yeah.
as it often does in history, But then the Yellow River, it floods massively,
Yeah.
and when it floods, it's devastating. I think there was a flood in the Yellow River where something like 1 million people died,
Oh, God.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Not even that long ago. Just because if you don't have any flood defenses in place and you've got so many people in one place, you're just done for. So
Yeah.
I think maybe it was something to do with flooding at some point. I know
Oh,
Liangshu, they were
definitely.
kind of
Like,
fighting constant battle against the flood,
yeah.
basically.
Like the
And there's
first...
even that myth as well of the
Yeah.
first. You were probably going to mention
Yeah.
this. The first Chinese emperor guy who would
Yeah,
this
you the
mythological
Great.
guy fought against the floods. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that's what he's known for. He was supposedly the founder of the Shah dynasty.
Oh,
And
okay, yes.
yeah, and that's kind of where the
Right.
connection between the two gets made a
Yes.
lot. So you can see from the earliest time though, flood control. It's like in Egypt, Mesopotamia, flood control is like paramount in their minds, and
Yeah.
often they kind of built
Yeah.
up their settlements built them in ways to try and minimize flood damage and things like that.
I think people today maybe don't realize the extent to which much of human history has been a battle against floods, because we live in an environment now, for the most part, that is really managed in terms of our water. So if
Yeah.
there is a flood, usually the flood defenses that have been in place for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, will protect you. It's only on rare
yeah.
occasions that some water will get out. But in the
Yeah.
past, pre-modern societies, there's none of that.
No, you just have to get your men out and just build a
Yeah,
big levee and hope for
exactly.
the best. And
If it
reinforce, like,
floods, you might all just die.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd take living over parts of the southern England that still deal with floods over this. Quite frankly, it's yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's this early Chinese history is fascinating because there's many different areas where civilization is growing.
Yeah.
And they're
it
all
makes it
sort of
kind of
disparate.
difficult. Makes it
Yeah.
kind of difficult to sum up the period. It's why I've been making this series. I've done 3 episodes and I'm still like in the Middle Neolithic or something like that. And it's because like the Middle Neolithic lasted 2,000 years. What do you want me to say? Like,
Yeah. It's a
yeah.
long, long time.
Yeah.
Long time. Yeah.
Cool.
What are the I've
what
just
else we
put these
got?
last images on that we've got.
Let's
Oh, this
have
is
a-
cool. So this is
Yeah,
the
this is what the palace would have
this
looked
is the
like.
palace.
Like these big
Wow.
open areas that they
Big
had.
open area, like a bit
Yeah.
like a plaza.
Yeah,
You can do ceremonies and things there and
yeah.
address the people. And
Because
yeah,
kingship was tied to ritual stuff from very early on here, as it is in so many places.
yeah,
Yeah. Interestingly, this might have been like if you're an average like guy on the street whose job is to bake the right, like to bake the millet they bring in, you're not going in this place. Like it's
Right.
held off from you. But the actual city itself at the time had no walls. I didn't even have like a substantial defensive
wow.
moat.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. So Liangshu ancient city does have walls, so
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Its precursors in the region do have walls, and its successors do. But one fear is it's so monopolized power in the area that like some of its outlying areas that are influenced by it, they do have moats and maybe walls in some places. But maybe it monopolized force to a point where there wasn't a serious competitor to deal
Yeah.
with in that regard.
Like Rome until the 3rd century, I guess.
Yeah.
Just didn't need walls. Quickly, let's
some
have
of
a
the-
look at this map as well.
that's-
This is cool.
that's-
So these are
That's
different
like
sites.
the big black one obviously is Erlitou, and then these are all like these other little sites that were they were kind of like these own quasi-independent states that were heavily influenced and maybe tributaries or dominated by Erlitou and things
Yeah.
like that in this area. But compared to like later Chinese dynasties, it's very, very small areas. And yeah, this is
Yeah,
turquoise.
yeah,
They
yeah.
used a load of turquoise in making stuff.
It's
so
nice.
It is. It's like they found a new shiny toy beyond just using jade for everything.
Yeah. It
use
almost
this
looks a
now.
bit Aztec to me. I can't help but compare everything to Mesoamerica. I don't know why. I just
Yeah, no,
when you get to the
it's fine.
Neolithic, it's sort of there are parallels.
Yeah, like Mesoamerica is like my embarrassing like blank spot on the map in terms of my knowledge, and I think you've picked one. And I'm really looking forward to finding out a bit more. So yeah, this is like a ceremonial scepter. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that after then. All
Yeah.
right, awesome. Yeah, this is made of jade.
Yes.
No,
So these
yes,
are
it
like
is, yeah.
scepters. I think that maybe there would have been like signs of like authority and stuff like that. I don't think they had any
Yeah.
actual weapon functionality or anything like that.
So it's interesting because the Chinese are using jade a little bit in the way that much of the rest of the world uses bronze and copper and things like that, and they kind of skip that phase and they do their power sort of displays with the jade.
Yeah.
Another
I think,
unique thing that China does.
I think this is kind of the period where they do start to do a bit more. They go a bit more hard on the
Bronze-
bronze,
Bronze is coming
ritual
in,
items
yeah.
come in.
But they've already
yeah,
been doing jade for
oh yeah,
thousands of years by this point.
maybe middle Neolithic. I'm not even sure if it might even be early Neolithic, like going back 5000 BC and stuff like that. There's like 3000 years by this point. So I think that's
Wow.
everything. Yeah.
All right, we're going to cross to the other side of the world.
Yes.
We're not going to Mesoamerica. We're going to go to South America.
Yeah, slightly different. Yeah.
Slightly different. We're going to look at Peru. So we're going to go to the coast of Peru. Now, Peru is an interesting place because the geography of it is just a bit mad. It's these gigantic mountains, a huge spine that goes down. They're the second tallest mountain range in the world, the Andes. And then in the shadow of the Andes, you have this desert fringe, basically, where it almost never rains. But the water that comes down from the Andes comes down in these rivers, and they're like arteries. So there's like many rivers that go down, and on each of these rivers is where people live, basically, and they're broken up by deserts. So it's this weird sort of harsh environment. But in this harsh, weird environment, people flourished from really early on. So this begins this area in the 4th millennium BC. So we're talking the same time as the early dynastic period we were talking about on the other side of the world in Iraq. And there are cities here. There is sort of primitive form of agriculture here. There is monument building. There are pyramids. There are just all of these wild things that nobody expected to find in the deserts of Peru.
No, it's really cool. It's like, because it's one of those areas, South America is kind of like, in terms of like what you're taught about here in school and things like that in England, it doesn't really figure into things
No,
all that much.
no,
And
no,
yet
no, no.
there's some serious arguments that some of the areas like that start to urbanize and that have early technological developments alongside Mesoamerica are like as early as the developments going on in Europe and Asia and
Yep.
all these other things. It's always been trucking
Yep.
along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and every year, it gets pushed. The dates get pushed back earlier as well,
Yeah.
because up until recently, there's this place called Corral Supe, which is this awesome city. I think this is Corral Supe here actually. So it's this. People didn't find it until relatively recently because it's just really in the middle of nowhere. This is one of those rivers which has got lots of agriculture on it, and the next to it there's this
like
desert
green
fringe,
band.
and it's just kind of out there. It's been excavated a bit now. Yeah, this is it. So this is one of the pyramids.
Oh, nice. Step pyramids.
It's pre-pottery. So when archaeologists first went there, they found no pots. So they just decided it wasn't important, basically, and kind of ignored it. And it's only recently, 1990s really, where the sort of the significance of it was realised again by a Peruvian archaeologist called Ruth Shady. She kind of went back in and looked at it again, and then some Americans came in as well. And yeah, it's one of these areas that's at the forefront of archaeology. It's difficult to do archaeology there because it's quite
quite isolated.
It's isolated, and it can be quite a corrupt area. There's issues. Ruth Shady has been shot, so somebody tried to kill her.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's this sort of like local land mafia essentially, and they didn't want her working there anymore because when the archaeologists move in and a place gets designated as a site, no more agriculture, no more that kind of thing. So they wanted to keep the land.
Going to damage their racket, so to speak.
Exactly. So they tried to kill her, which is wild.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but yeah, people don't really take into account sometimes. Like archaeologists in trying to work in some parts of the world are just so dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, it can be super dangerous. This is another one of those complexes, and they also have all of these Corral Supe sites. There's loads of them now. Corral was one of the first that was found, but there's absolutely tons of them now. There used to be an idea that Corral was this super city at the heart of the network, but it may not actually have been that. It may be that there were just many, many of these places, a little bit like the early Dynastic period. There may have been these kind of city-states dotted around, but
it's always interesting when you first find them, like they seem so big and impressive, and then you're like, oh, we found another one. Oh, we found another one. It's oh, actually, this was just typical. Yeah.
Keeps happening.
Yeah.
But all of them have these sunken plazas. So something that happened in these sunken plazas was unanimous for the whole culture, basically. So it seems like they had the same religion, or at least the same way of thinking about the world, maybe. And something would be done in these sunken plazas. Nobody really knows what, because it's so long ago. There's no writing. There's very little artwork. There is a bit, but not much. There's not much iconography or anything like that to go on. So it's really...
Yeah.
We're kind of at the beginnings of the archaeology of this culture. I hope that more and more is dug and discovered over the century to come.
Definitely.
But we're almost, we're in... I guess the level of knowledge that we had about the early dynastic period in the 1920s.
Yeah, when they first went there and they were going by the Bible and
that's
stuff
right,
like that. Yeah,
because it's so early. We just really don't know much of what's happening. Let's get some other pictures. This is a nice little picture of what it may have looked like in its prime.
Yeah, because the sunken aspect makes me feel like it was supposed to be shielded from view to some extent.
May well have been. Yeah. There's all sorts of theories. There's theories that could have been games that were happening there. It may have been, your classic ritual to ensure the continuation of the world or whatever. But yeah, again, there's not a huge amount of evidence of warfare amongst these people. Really interesting. There's no walls. There's none of that kind of thing. It seems like people were having a relatively nice time, not murdering each other. You don't find skeletons embedded with axes and things like this, like you do in the Neolithic in Britain. It seems like people were having an okay time. And they had an interesting diet because they ate a lot of fish, a huge amount of fish. The waters off the coast of Peru are some of the most abundant in the world due to the sort of strange Humboldt current that goes on there. It's this weather system which creates loads of fish, basically. So there's an argument that fishing and maritime food gathering was a huge factor in the development of this society, as well as little bits of agriculture and things coming in like beans and corn and stuff like that.
Does
And
make
they were
sense if you're kind of reliant on the river for your resources.
Yeah,
You would be
yeah,
going
yeah,
up and
yeah.
down with the trade, and
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, but it was the sea. It was well. They would
Oh
go
yes,
on
because
these.
you're going out to the coast. Yeah.
They would go on these. I should have put an image of it on there, but there's these boats. Basically, they make them out of reeds, and they still use them today. And they go out and fish, and then bring it all back in. And they've found tons of evidence of basically you'd go out, get a massive net full of fish, dry it out, and then pack it down, I think, with salt and things like that, and you can preserve it. And then the cities on the coast would send the preserved fish inland in return for cotton, because cotton was a thing that they were growing a lot as well.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of interesting
Always
developments
been
that
like
happen
these-
nowhere else here.
Yeah, there's always been like these reciprocal agreements within
Yes.
between these societies that they all
Yes.
need to survive with each other. It's always interesting to see it play out.
And there's a big
yeah.
argument that that is why this place was so successful and prominent, because of these
Because they were willing to work
arrangements.
together in that style. Yeah.
They were working together. Yeah, one city would send another city something, and they would work together.
Oh, very
Let's
cool.
get some more images for you.
I do always like when you realise that these areas, there's such an obvious, simple way of transportation. You were saying with the reed boats, that it just sticks around because it's like because that's the only resource there is there. It works. Like
That's
it's like
right.
when you see people in like the southern Mesopotamian marshes still using the same reed boats that are appearing on iconography from 5,000 years ago. Well, yeah, obviously, like it just works. It
Yeah,
just works.
exactly. There's a lot of similarities between Mesopotamia and this area,
Yeah.
actually.
It makes some civilizations feel a little less special when you're like, oh no, everywhere was doing this sort of thing.
Yeah. And there's I think there's something in living in a harsh environment that makes people come together in a way.
Yeah.
Because there's not a huge amount of resources here, a little bit like in Mesopotamia. They had to they had to work for it in order to build a society. It wasn't easy.
Yeah. And I imagine when there was
easy.
hardship as well, they probably had like reciprocal agreements. Like the example I know of is like before
This
we
is some of the
started.
art from it.
Oh wow! Before we started showing up in places like Algeria in the 19th century, like the French showing up, there's a lot of villages there that like the way they survived is when there was a drought, they all worked together.
Yeah.
And they had all these reciprocal agreements with one another. And I feel like that was probably something that was going on here to deal with times of hardship and
Yeah, I
as
think
well as
so, I
day-to-day
think so.
trade. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the hardship got them in the end. Around 1900 BC, there was nothing they could do. There was a mega El Nino event,
Yeah.
which essentially just eradicated society. And then some of the things that they were doing may have carried on to other cultures that came a little bit later, but these big settled places with the pyramids came to an end.
Yeah. Probably did as we said with the other areas, they probably split it off into smaller groups and tried to find more mobile strategies
That's
of living.
right. That's right. I believe that they had llamas here.
Yes, that sounds about
I
right.
could be wrong on that one, but I think they have found llamas, early domesticated llamas at these places down from the Andes, which is interesting because it shows that
Again.
they were trading with the interior, the far interior. There's lots of interesting things there. So the way that they built these pyramids actually to protect against earthquakes is that all the stones were surrounded by little cotton bags.
Oh, wow.
So if there was an earthquake, the pyramid would survive.
This is like nothing. There's nothing new under the sun. It's like in Mesopotamia, putting reed mats between layers on ziggurats so that they don't for stability.
So they don't
It's like-
move,
yeah.
Similar kind of thing. Another quick one. So yeah, basically this is Corral, and this
that shows the landscape really well. Yeah.
shows the landscape. Yeah. So they exist on the fringe of these agricultured these basically fertile valleys. In fact, can you see that is the river?
Okay. I was going to ask at one point. Has
No
the
water
river
in it.
Oh right.
It's
Is
like
it
a
just
wadi.
Dry season. Yeah.
It's dry season, yeah. So it will be wet for only a very small part of the year. So irrigation has always been what these people have had to do in order to survive.
Yeah, I mean, even now, one of my best friends is from Ecuador, and she was saying like during the wet season, because they rely on the river, like the rivers for electricity generation, they often will get like these rolling blackouts and stuff like that because they just rely on the river so much.
We have it easy. This is still a very wild landscape, basically. Still massive wilderness areas, and you can still find cities like this that are completely unexcavated, that are just in the middle of nowhere. And they look like hills, but they're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. So I have no doubt there's going to be much more archaeology done. The only issue is when the sort of slightly nefarious people get there before the archaeologists do, because they quite often will just completely destroy an archaeological site. Lots of these Carol Super sites have like power plants built into them and things like this, and it's just, there's not the same level of respect, I think, for the archaeology that there is in some areas in the world. But it is what it is, you know.
It is. I mean, I guess if you're in an area where it's people very needy, it's kind of it's sad, but it's like I kind of understand why they nixed this thing to try and sell it. Like,
that's right. If you're living, you know, one meal to the next, you don't know where, you know, where you're going to be eating next week. You're not particularly interested in this stuff. You're just interested in feeding your family. So yeah, I get it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Carol Soupe.
Yeah,
we've had a little bit of a foray into the Americas.
No, it's good to have my eyes open to sort of thing, because I don't really know that much about the area, and it's one of my kind of it's this and like early Africa and stuff like that. Those are my two like big blind spots, I must admit, in terms of knowledge. Yeah.
Where are mine? Southeast Asia. I know nothing.
Yeah, I got kind of mixed. I know like a bit about like the various like migrations and expansions out that led to a lot of like modern like kind of Polynesian cultures that you can trace it back, and it's like basically they came from an area near modern Taiwan and stuff like that.
I'd love to know about the Khmer Rouge and things. No, not the Khmer Rouge.
Oh God,
not the Khmer Rouge. What's the original? The Khmer.
Yeah, the Khmer people. Yeah,
the Khmer people, not the Khmer Rouge. No, I don't
Khmer Rouge.
I know about that. I don't want to know about that. The Khmer people, the people who made Angkor Wat and all that stuff, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're going to the Mycenaeans
Empire.
now.
That's it. Yeah.
The Khmer Empire. Yeah.
Now you'll know more about this than me. But I thought it was a cool one to throw in.
Not necessarily. Yeah, we could just have a nice discussion. Oh, here we go. Now we're talking. Where should we start? Which one do you want me to put on first? The Dendropanoply.
Yes.
This is the coolest piece of armor of the ancient world.
It's really cool armor. So the fascination for me with the Mycenaeans really started with, you know, what's the relevance of the Mycenaeans to things like the Trojan War and stuff like that. I think that's where everyone starts.
Pretty much.
To some extent, yeah. It's like, what do you know about this region? And like Bronze Age Greece. Oh, Trojan War. Yeah, of course. But like the initial like sets of armor and like the boar tusk helmets and all this stuff. Really cool stuff from the period. I think the boar tusk helmets, I think, are one of the few elements that are mentioned in the Iliad that are like archaeologically correct.
Yes,
something like that. Yeah,
certainly the Odyssey. There's a bit where Odysseus describes a boar tusk helmet.
Yeah. And then the other things like the figure of 8 shields and use of chariots, all that stuff. No, I thought this was just a fun one to bring up that a lot of people will probably know quite a little bit about. But it's one of those where we know quite a lot, but there's kind of a few tantalizing bits and pieces that we're missing, I would say, about them, where kind of things like kind of basic things like everyone assumes, you know, had these individual different little states that were throughout the Greek mainland and on various Greek islands and stuff like that were all organized around these palatial centers, these kind of fortified citadels with surrounding towns, and that each controlled a certain amount of land. But there's kind of some basic elements that we kind of take for granted, but it's not 100% sure. Like the top, like who was at the top of this hierarchy and things like that, where we think that there was a figure called the Wanax. I don't know if that's how I'm pronouncing that correctly.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah. Another term that sneaks its way into the Iliad, I think Agamemnon is briefly described by that title at one point. But we're kind of just working on the presumption that that was the equivalent of the king, and the king was also the high priest.
But so Wanax is the term from the Linear B tablets.
Yes,
I believe. Yeah. So we should say that there is a bit of writing.
Yes,
in
there is.
The Mycenaean world. Not a huge amount, but there is some. Largely records sort of economic things, a little bit like cuneiform did in
Yeah,
the early dynastic period.
proconeiform and
Yeah,
stuff like
but
that.
yeah, the one axes are certainly mentioned a lot.
Yeah, and it's kind of like we've kind of assumed from like looking at them in how they're described in text that this person had a lot of powerful religious duties, a lot of military duties, a lot of administrative duties. They're probably equivalent to like a king in a lot of
Mm.
Indo-European and Middle like Eastern Mediterranean societies. But we're not 100% sure. Like there's other figures who have similar like duties in those texts. And there's
Yeah,
other major landowners mentioned in some, like in Pylos, I think, in places like that, where they list the amount of land that the Wanax personally owns. But there's also other landowners divorced from that figure who have similar amounts of land.
yeah, and
And there's,
they seem to be independent of the one axe in a way.
yes,
Yeah, very interesting, very
yeah,
interesting.
they're kind of, it's interesting. We've kind of just assumed that this is the person at the top, and that this is the person living in the is it the Megaran palaces or whatever it's,
Yeah, I would say
what,
Megaron, but I mean that
Megaron.
might be wrong.
I think you're right because mega that's how it's generally used in other phrases. But
Yeah,
yeah, so like living in those palaces, we assume that this was the tip top of the pyramid, but it might have been slightly different. We don't know, but
I am inclined to think that the one axes may have had a kind of ceremonial religious
yeah,
function, which is an interesting one. They may have been a pope slash military leader,
yeah,
because I'm sure he would be on the battlefield, but I think he probably had Basiliuses to do the fighting for him.
yes. I
Basically,
mean,
he'd have these sort of like lords that would do his fighting for him, probably.
that's always the question, isn't it? With like lots of medieval, like not medieval, early warfare and stuff like that. Is you get all these inscriptions of kings saying, "I vanquished this in personal combat. I did this. I did that." It's like, how much of that is actually true, though? Did you just
Yeah,
like did you actually do that? Like in some cases, they very well have been like leading from the front line as the visible like center
yeah,
of authority
yeah,
of
yeah.
command. But maybe there was some occasions where they were actually like, "I'm going to hang back," and then, "Oh, you've got the enemy general in chains. Whoop, off comes his head." Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Uh,
Well, a bit like in the Persian Empire, the Dariuses and the Xerxeses usually would be at the back, and they'd have
mm,
their generals who would be at the front doing the real sort of fighting work.
mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
if you're a one axe, you probably wouldn't want to risk yourself in battle. I don't know.
I don't know. It's like one of those. Maybe you're a person who's considered too important to risk. Maybe it
Hmm.
was kind of expected of you, though, that you would do. Like you know, by taking on the role, you've got certain expectations that you have
Could
to
be,
meet.
could be,
Uh,
could be. You're
and
right though with the projection of power. It's interesting because the Aztecs, for example, all of the sources would suggest that the Aztec rulers would be in the fray
mm,
fighting, but those are only from quite propagandistic
yeah,
messages. So whether they were actually in the fray, who knows? The same as like Assyrian rulers, for example. They would like to depict themselves as being in the fray, but were they
yeah.
really?
Were they in the
Uh,
fray? But were they kind of in the fray in a way as well that minimized, not minimized, but lessen the danger? Like, were they barreling their way into a melee in a chariot rather than on foot, physically
yeah,
fighting and stuff
yeah,
like that? Or were they
yeah.
riding past in a war wagon throwing missiles at the enemy or something like that in ancient Sumer?
Or just
But
not even there,
yeah,
like on a hill at the back and hoping that
yeah,
everything went okay. And they've got, their lord doing it. They've got their general. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's interesting, but no, I find it interesting. So this culture as well. I remember when it was first discovered, there was a lot of kind of work put into trying to get them to line up a little bit with the Trojan War account. So
definitely. That's
somebody,
what motivated
yeah,
all of the original archaeologists.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Schliemann. Who was the guy after Schliemann? Was it Evans, the guy after
Arthur
Schliemann? I'm trying to remember.
Evans was
Arthur
kind of
Evans.
contemporary with Schliemann, but a bit afterwards. Arthur Evans did Minoan Crete,
Yes,
and he named them the Minoans
yeah,
after
because
King Minos.
he thought that, and this like held sway for a long time. He thought that the Minoans were kind of the overlords and
He did.
and like of the Mycenaeans, and that
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
culture certainly influenced the Mycenaeans.
Yes.
But like he thought that they were kind of the head, like the local hegemons, and other people were saying there was like Mycenae may have been the overarching like great king of the region, and there's some to some extent that's how they may have been perceived internationally, definitely because there's inscriptions from like the Hittites and the Egyptians that seem to be addressing a polity on the Greek mainland as a great king. But I think that view has kind of shifted a little bit to the idea that there were these various different states, excuse me, were probably quite independent of each other on the actual mainland.
I certainly think so. Yeah, I think that there were many states.
Yeah,
and they would fight against each other. And to be honest, the end of the Mycenaean period, I think it was a gigantic bloodbath, a civil war. Everyone went at each other, and everybody got fed up of the Wanaxes as well and got rid of them.
It's such like a mystifying period, isn't it? Where like what actually happened? Because like you have the probably quite basic explanation of like the systems collapse of like the lifelines of international trade and local agricultural produce all just kind of collapsed in a way that led to these like major palatial centers like falling apart. You know, you get like tantalizing things. You've got the sea peoples being talked about in Egypt, and some of those are almost certainly like derived from the Mycenaeans.
I'm going to say, I think the sea peoples were in large part these guys.
Yeah, like I think the Ekwesh and the other ones that begin with
the Danahu
and the Danahu probably all had some point, because the Pelset went on probably to become the Philistines as well in the southern Levant Canaan area, and they almost certainly were influenced by the Mycenaeans in terms of their physical culture.
The interesting thing is because the Mycenaean collapse basically happens in the end of the 13th century BC, so it's kind of one generation before 1177 BC, which is this big battle on the Nile. So it's almost like some of the sea peoples would have been born into this world of chaos, and they're sort of born Vikings.
Do you wonder if it could have been a situation where if that kind of collapsed before, it's like, well, you got all these different groups of men, kind of similar to when in early Rome, like the early Latins, where you have all these groups of young men who are sent out just to raid against nearby cities, and this was kind of more of like a seafaring version of that, where there's no opportunity here at home. We're struggling to get by a little bit at the moment.
I absolutely think that. Yeah,
there could be like people going off to seek their fortune and bits and pieces. Yeah,
I would massively agree with that. Yeah. I think it is that because a raid, if you're very, very successful, can become an invasion.
Yeah. You could suddenly be like, oh, this is my settlement now. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're just on a roll with it, that's the Great Heathen Army in 865. Yeah. They just kept going.
If you show up and the local authorities either prove ineffective or don't show up at all because they're collapsing as well,
that's right.
Like you can carve out your own little kingdom.
That's right. Yeah. And that's the Peloset right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other images have we got then?
I think we got a couple of Mycenae with showing the big cyclopean architecture and like the big So this is Tiryns, I think.
This is Tiryns.
Yeah.
One
thing I'm really jealous of you've been all over Greece and seen all these sites, and I would love to go. At financial reasons, not been able to go yet, but I've got plans to go.
Out of all the places I've been to, I highly recommend Greece. It is, as you say, financial reasons, yeah. However, it's cheaper than a lot of places.
Yeah.
I'd say to get to Greece, it is relatively cheap.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. I'd like to go and see all the big ones, Mycenae, go down to Tiryns, go over to Pylos, have a good look. I'm going to maybe go into some of the other ones like Orchomenos and all these different places. Would be really cool.
Oh, you've got to go. You've got to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, finances.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm just going to go as a tourist, probably a lot easier. But part of me would like to be able to tie it in with me doing some actual video stuff. That'd be phenomenal.
That would be awesome. This is the treasury of Atreus. This is absolutely exquisite example of a corbelled tomb.
Yeah,
beehive-shaped tomb. And it's the finest example. I think I read somewhere it's the finest example for 1,000 years to come after it's built. It's only that the Romans finally build one that's more magnificent, but it's in like 200 BC or something. So it takes 1,000 years to surpass this architecture.
Because it's amazing just how well kind of the structure has survived as well. Because this is one of the ones I think where the roof has survived and things like that. There's examples where the roof has kind of completely collapsed in.
Yeah, most of them, most Thalos tombs you
Yeah.
see, you just see the shell, but this one has completely survived.
Yeah, it's a shame that they're just long since completely plundered and empty.
Yeah.
No idea who was there, what they were buried with.
Possibly
etc.
plundered just a couple of generations after.
Do you think the like the entrance, like the kind of, what's the term I'm looking for here? That the little like window hole, like the roof hole, the roof box. That's the term I'm looking for. The roof box over the top of the door. Do you think that had any significance, or do you think it was filled in with things initially?
Haven't given that much thought actually.
Because I don't know if it goes all the way through to the actual tomb or if it's just a hollow.
That is a hollow, I think, because inside it's a complete dome, basically. That is I think that would have had something in it. Maybe it would have had a golden statue. You know, I don't know.
Something decorative, like
something
maybe it had something
decorative.
like the lion gate had, where it had like
Maybe.
the arch.
Maybe. Fun fact: many of the decorations that used to be around here, I'm not sure if they were on the doorway here or just inside. These decorative flowers and things like this, and carvings, they're in the British Museum now.
Oh,
So,
as with most of other Greek history.
yeah. Yeah. I was a bit disappointed to find that out. I was like, why did you take that? You didn't really need to take that.
Yeah.
Because I think that would have been safe. But yeah, I guess maybe it happened during the Ottoman period. Maybe it was they thought it would be looted. I don't know, but
maybe they just thought they could get their hands on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, if you go to the British Museum, it's like at the very edge of the room with all the Assyrian stuff downstairs. You know that big room with the Rosetta
when you come in
Stone
and it's on the left. Yeah.
It's right at the edge, just in the corner, and you could easily miss it, but it's there. Yeah.
I actually should have looked more for that because I've been there twice to that area. So
next time you go, have a look. I think it's on the way. There's another bit actually. There's two bits. There's another bit which is next to the pizzeria.
Yeah.
So you know where that pizza place is. It's by that.
It's a huge place, the British Museum.
Huge museum, yeah.
I only had like limited time to go both times, so I've only seen like I think 2/3 of the actual complex.
I've probably been 10 times, you know, and I've barely scratched the surface because you can spend a whole day in one room.
Yeah, like I remember standing around all like the Mycenaean like pottery and just talking about the pottery designs with friends for like a good
so much of it. So much of it.
Yeah.
The V&A is another good one. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No.
The V&A, Victoria and Albert Museum, because that's got loads of ancient Chinese stuff. It's the British Empire's museum for Asian art, basically. So everything that was looted during the British Empire from Asia, or a lot of it is in there.
Yeah.
Here we go, the Lion Gate. Probably the most
Gate
famous thing in Mycenae.
With this cyclopean architect. Am I right? Is that like a myth or is it an actual thing which people later believed that the reason the rocks were so large and because they were so mismatched, they thought that literally the Cyclops had built it?
It's what the ancient writers say. So it's what the classical historians do say that. I mean, some people probably did think it, but it would be a popular myth. I mean, anyone who was educated wouldn't have thought it. But in the same way that crops up again in post-Roman Britain. Yeah. There were some people
it's like,
who thought,
Merlin must have got giants to build Stonehenge.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a popular myth, really. Yeah.
It would have been
a grand entranceway back then. Records it.
Yeah, Pausanias records just about everything, doesn't he?
He records everything. Yeah. He's the guy. He's the big
guy. Guy went everywhere. Went on holiday and wrote a book.
He did. He went on a massive holiday.
Yeah.
Spent much of his life on it.
He's actually a bit of a skeptic a lot of the time. Like I remember he showed up at Laconia and saw like the wolf altar or whatever it was there, and was like, "Oh, people here say that people turn into wolves, but I for one think that this is silly or something like that."
Yeah. He's good, Pausanias. Yeah,
he's good.
He doesn't ever go off on one. To be fair, I like Herodotus because Herodotus, when he goes off on one, he's always just like, Bob down the pub told me this.
Yeah, someone told me this. I don't know.
I don't know if it's true. Yeah. But I'll record it. So I'm happy he records the things.
He does get a harsh treatment sometimes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because he does genuinely say when he doesn't know. He's like, this is just a story.
Yeah. This is the Mask of Agamemnon, so from the Shaft tombs that were found there. This is actually older than, so people were really trying to tie this in again with the whole Trojan War thing and the figure of Agamemnon and his dynasty. and it's actually older, I think, isn't it? By
He's a good few hundred
years.
years before. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like 1600 BC, Trojan War, 1200 BC, right thereabouts, if it took place.
yeah,
So yeah, good few hundred years before. He'd be the ancestor of Agamemnon.
yeah. If such a figure ever existed, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's just one of, I think, 7 of these golden masks, and the
Yeah.
other ones don't look as magnificent as him.
No, I think the reason that people obviously gravitated to this is this looks the most handsome.
It just looks, it looks cool. Yeah, it looks cool.
does.
The other ones are a bit. This one looks less lifelike in a way, because the other ones look like they could
Yeah.
be actual death masks. There's one where he looks like a fat old bald guy, and I'm like, that looks like a king.
Yeah, that's what this is.
That
Someone's
could
like,
be
oh,
a
he's dead.
one-axe.
Dead. He's dead. I'll just put him what he actually looked like rather than make
Yeah.
him look good.
Well, because it may have been actually a death mask. So, like, I don't know if this is actually the
they
case,
might
but it may have been poured into his features, kind of thing,
wow.
to preserve his features. This one doesn't look like that. This one just looks like
No.
it's sort of a carving. So it looks like it's a
Artistic
different
rendering.
style.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the mustache.
Hmm.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think that's everything. Where are we going next?
Let's have a look. See.
A couple more.
So we're moving forwards now. We will go. Let's go back to America.
Hmm.
We'll look at the ancestral pueblos. Have you heard of these
I'm not familiar
guys?
with this one. No,
They used to be called the Anasazi.
I've vaguely heard that name, but I don't.
So Anasazi basically means ancient enemy in Navajo. So the ancestral Pueblo people eventually were like, we don't want to be called the ancient enemy in a language that isn't our own. So now they're known as the ancestral Pueblo.
Yeah.
But it's this fascinating culture.
It's interesting when that happens. I think there's a Native
Spans
American.
4 states here. Sorry, you carry on.
I think no, it's fine. 'Cause I think there's a Native American tribe whose name to most people is just that name because they were called the enemy or something like that.
Yeah,
In
it happens all
another
the time.
tribe's language. Yeah.
Happens all the time. And then sort of us lot in the West, we just record the one that we hear, but it's like actually incredibly insulting
Yeah.
to the people, those people.
Show
you
up
know.
and say, "Oh, you're so and so." People like, "Wait, what?" Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this area, the ancestral Puebloans, around
okay.
600, about 600 AD. They start doing agriculture. Before that, they were hunter-gatherers, and when they start doing agriculture, things start happening, as they often do. They start coalescing in bigger settlements. The major one is Chaco Canyon, which is an absolutely ludicrous place. And they come up with these things
Ooh, nice.
called great houses. So this here in the background is a great house. This is a kiva in front of it, which is a sunken chamber, basically. It would have had a roof over the top of it. And they would have done, you know, you guess it, rituals and ceremonies in there.
Yeah.
Because archaeologists, we're obsessed with rituals
Yeah.
and ceremonies.
Got to be ritual. Find a spoon on the ground. It's ritual.
Exactly. But they were doing things in these underground sort of chambers in here. And these kivas are everywhere. These great houses are everywhere. In Chaco Canyon itself, there's a lot of great houses. I can't remember how many exactly. Maybe there's 30 great houses, something like this. And the idea was they'd build one. Let me get a good example. Here's the good example. This is called Pueblo Bonito. And there's some people down here, so you can get the sense of the scale of the thing.
Yeah.
These are the largest structures in North America until, I think, the 1800s. They're absolutely massive.
Are the individual like circles? Are they
question.
like rooms, foundations, or are they?
These are kivas.
Yeah. Oh,
So
so
they-
yeah, they're open areas. Yeah.
Yeah, so they would have had roofs on them. They would have had
Ah.
roofs on them originally. And then there's these chambers everywhere. And these things are just really weird because people do not appear to have lived in them. They appear to have been potentially stockpiles for resources. So they appear to have been elite complexes where you'd maybe have one family or maybe two family, one extended family living in these things, but they clearly had a massive labor force to build the things for them.
It reminds me a little bit, I think, is it the Halaf culture where in northern Mesopotamia, where you had like these complexes where it was like probably an elite family, and they had like a version of this, but where they put resources, but it was like a big pholos, similar to what we saw in Mycenae, where like, but this is more split up. It looks like.
So they're stockpiling things, and there's almost like an arms race with these great houses because they just get bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And by the end of Chaco Canyon, in about 1050 AD, 1100 AD, that kind of time, they're so big that most of the rooms have no visible use. They're not using them for anything. And it's like they just keep building bigger great houses.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an heir who then builds the next one, then his heir builds the next one. They're each building a new one. And it's like this projection of power. They're trying to show everybody that they have loads of things, but they may not actually be using most of the rooms. It's just this appearance of having all this stuff.
Yeah.
So everybody
Yeah,
look at all this stuff I've got.
I got 20 rooms full of stuff. Can I see it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. You can see this one. Can I see
one
another
room?
one? No.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But Chaco Canyon itself is kind of like, it's like a mecca, this place. People were coming here from miles and miles and miles around to do something.
Yeah.
And stories survive of this place, and most of them are not pleasant, which is really interesting. So amongst the Navajo and amongst many of the other Native American peoples, the Hopi, for example, they have stories of this place, and it's like a bad place. You don't want to go there. And the idea was that there's kind of like this trickster, Joker type character who would trick people into becoming his slaves. And there's an idea that this story has been passed down to kind of describe maybe what was going on at Chaco Canyon. There's an archaeologist called Stephen Lexon who thinks that they had kings here, which is super interesting. And it's a bit controversial. Like, a lot of people don't think that. But he's basically saying he reckons there were kings here. So he thinks that people were giving the whole kingship thing a go, and then they realised, hang on, we don't like this.
No,
they threw down their kings.
These people are exploiting our labour, actually. And maybe that could kind of like sync up a little bit with the figure, like, sort of thing of like, oh, this thing, if that's what was happening, people were going there and effectively being recruited into being a labour force. Yeah,
that's the kind of thing, pretty much, and almost getting tricked into then just doing things for the elite, basically.
Yeah.
Because then Chaco Canyon collapses about 1050 AD, but the culture survives, and they essentially have like many, many other places that then grow up.
Yeah, so they kind of move on from that from the exact system that they were using there and try something else. Yeah,
pretty much. But then there's another place called Aztec Ruins, which I don't have a picture of, I don't think, but it's another place with great houses. So some sort of elites, it seems, or religious elders or whatever from Chaco survived and carried on at a different place. But many of the ancestral pueblos lived in settlements like this one at Mesa Verde, which I'll just find. Here we go. You may have seen this before. This is Cliff Palace.
Ah, yes, I have seen this one. I do know this one.
So this is the same culture, more or less. It's a little bit later. This is like 1200, 1300 AD.
It's so compact. Look at it.
Beautiful. Yeah, very compact. Interesting architecture. Sort of, it almost looks a little bit like Çatalhöyük. It's these sort of houses built into each other.
Without streets, yeah.
Without streets, really. They maybe move around on the roofs to get to different buildings. And this is a place called Mesa Verde, which is this giant mesa, which is like a huge plateau, essentially. And it's just covered in archaeological remains. It's covered in the Ancestral Pueblo settlements. Yeah, and they're all over the place. And this is only... The Europeans stumbled upon this stuff in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And they were really shocked at first because they were like, how did the savages, who they thought them as at the time, make this stuff?
It's like when they stumbled across like the remains of like the Mississippian cultures and stuff like that. Where
Exactly.
it's like, wait a minute.
Exactly. They couldn't
Like,
possibly believe that it was created by the natives. They thought it had to have been made by the white man.
no, that's really cool.
Um,
It's interesting to see like there are certain strategies in certain areas that just get repeated over
Yeah.
and over. Like,
exactly.
because it just makes sense in that area. You got limited amount of land and this under this overhang of the cliff. Well, build a houses really compact. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And also this idea of these sort of like central places growing up, like a Göbekli Tepe, like a Mecca, like a Chaco Canyon, they happen all over the place. Potentially like Erlitou, for example, that could have been a central place where people would congregate, and then someone takes advantage of it being a central place is what could happen.
First guy to open a shop, and then suddenly he owns the whole town.
Suddenly he's king.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was it about Chaco Canyon that made people congregate here originally? Which is that's the interesting thing. That's like, why did an event happen here that everybody remembers? Was there like this was the place where you wanted to go? Because people were traveling
like
vast
there.
distances to get here. Yeah, and there's even a massive road network, which is completely baffling. So there's a thing called the Chaco Great Road, which goes north from Chaco Canyon. So the Great North Road here, and it goes really very, very far.
It does.
And then they go south as well.
So how were they? Was it like just like a dirt road they like marked out, or was it
Pretty much
paved in some? Just dirt. Yeah.
Dirt road that they'd marked out, but in a very, very straight line.
Yeah.
So they were very into astronomy as well. As many Native American peoples are.
With some of the roads where they like started making the road going towards, or like going down to Akinisoni, for example, down at the bottom. They started there, and then they either realized, we're going to miss it, and change the trajectory, or they started at the wrong angle and then had to adapt. It feels like, or maybe there was something else there that they had to stop on the way. Yeah.
Maybe. A lot of the land here as well, interestingly, you can see for hundreds of kilometers. Like it's big,
it's
open, flat land. So a lot of these things, it will be one mesa you can see another mesa from that mesa.
Oh, so it's like a navigating landmark. I get
sometimes the things line up as well, because all these great houses as well, they have various they line up with the sun and the moon and stars and things like this, and all sorts of archaeoastronomy has been done here. It's cool, it's interesting, and it's something that Westerners struggled to comprehend when they first found it, which I always like.
Yeah. It's like, we're not as special as we thought. Yeah,
exactly. Like these guys were wildly sophisticated, and again living in a very, very harsh, rugged environment. Here we go. This is a good one. So this is
good
shows
angle.
Sort of what the scale of the place is. They're big. They're big structures. Biggest structures in North America until the founding of the United States, basically.
Yeah. It's quite an arid climate there as well, isn't it? So
it is.
It's kind of one of those where you can kind of see why a lot of it could be quite well preserved, because you've not got a huge amount of rainfall to damage the structures over a long time. I guess maybe you struggle with desertification is what I was trying to say.
It's so arid that the wood from many of these structures survives intact in situ.
Yeah.
So you can actually see the wood, and that is why archaeologists have enjoyed this place since radiocarbon dating has come in, because they're able to actually say, okay, this one was built in, not just radiocarbon dating, dendrochronology.
Yeah.
Because they're able to say this...
The actual wood, yeah.
Yeah, this house was built in 1030 AD. This one was built in 1010 AD. They can pinpoint the exact dates for many of these great houses, which is amazing.
Because then you have like these, and it's such a great example of that, because then you could generate a whole sequence of different dates. And one of the problems
people have. Yeah.
One of the problems you have with a lot of cultures is you get these things where people are like, I've got this radiocarbon date over here that says it's this age, and it's like, okay, but we kind of need a sequence here, and we need dendrology, and we need all these other things to adjust. And it's like one date off by itself isn't actually that helpful.
Exactly. And the last thing I'm going to say about Ancestral Pueblo culture, really I've focused on Chaco Canyon because that's the most interesting place as far as I'm concerned. It really dwarfs all of the other sites.
Yeah.
It really was this central place. There seem to be links with Mesoamerica, which is quite far away to the south, but they have all sorts of things like macaw feathers up here, which suggests that there's a link to Mesoamerica in some way. So some sort of culture or religion or something has come up here, basically, and it may have influenced their way of life.
No, it's really cool. Yeah. I'd like to know what the main items they were getting from there were outside of macaw feathers. It sounds really interesting.
Well, you'll have to watch my history time on it when I finally make it one day.
Yes.
It'll take me a while, but it's definitely on my list. Chaco Canyon.
That's the thing with me. I've got the same thing. I got like a big list of things I want to do eventually, and I'm like, I'll get to that when I'm 55.
Yeah, exactly. One day, one day.
Yeah.
Some of the things I quite like that I'm going to wait, actually, because I'm like, what's going to be found in the next 10 years?
Could be like that's the problem with I'm working on a video at the moment about Roman activity in Ireland, and the main site I'm working with, I'm like, it's in such a state of flux. Like, I have to conclude that like we're just going to have to wait and see on this one to some extent, because there's just not enough excavating being done here yet.
Yeah,
and they're actively doing more. So my video could be out of date. Yeah,
it could be. But it's nice to just introduce people to the concepts, I suppose. I like to talk about particularly the places like this, because I think most people probably haven't heard of this, which is
I hadn't
crazy.
heard of it. I'd heard of the Undercliff City site that you showed me.
Yeah. But that's really
didn't
just
know the name. Yeah.
The Mesa Verde is just sort of the aftermath after Chaco Canyon. The Chaco Canyon is when the truly mad stuff is going on.
Yeah.
It's well worth having a look. And there's tons of research. It's one of these areas where in the US, archaeologists have been doing it for 100 years very heavily. Yeah,
it's always nice when because they found it so early on. We've got like generations of different archaeologists who had different perspectives on the site.
That's right. Yeah. So it's sort of people, theory. There are many different theories, and it comes and goes. And there's also the local knowledge that still exists. So the Hopi people and the Navajo people and the modern Pueblo people, they all have their stories still. Their mythologies intact. So you can use a bit of that as well.
Yeah, they're always cool to see, and see as well like how the tales probably evolved in line with what there is remaining. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. All right. Awesome. We're getting towards the end of the list.
Cool.
I think. Have we
got a couple more to go? I think.
Couple more to go.
Iron Age Island.
Oh yes, fantastic.
So let's
wonderful.
Go with,
what do you want to start with?
Start with the Tara one on the left, I think.
Oh, we've got to start with Tara.
Yeah, because
the Hill of Tara, the heart of Irish mythology.
Yeah. So the Irish Iron Age is a funny place. It's like, for quite a while, archaeologists tended to just talk, and then the majority of textbooks and papers you find in this will talk about Ireland's big ritual sites from the Iron Age. But for a long time, it was quite difficult for us to find a lot of evidence of residential centres dating from the Irish Iron Age. I think it's like something like 400 or 600 BC through to it depends like how far you go. You could theoretically go all the way up until St. Patrick showing up in the 5th century. And
it's a bit of an arbitrary thing in a way.
It is, and but most of the research has been based around about 5 or 6 major Iron Age ritual centres. So we've got examples of one here, which is the Hill of Tara, and Hill of Tara probably would have looked quite a bit different back then in the Iron Age. It would have. I'm not sure when. So you see the central like figure of 8 structure that you had there. I know that the one on the left, which is a ring barrow,
it's Neolithic.
Yes, that's much older. I think there's an older set of post holes for something that might have been there before it, but that's the oldest obvious feature that's still surviving. And I was there a couple of months ago, and it's one of those sites where because it's like a popular dog walking location now is Tara. And when you get there, there's just people standing on top of it, like on top of the Mount Hostage. And you're like, part of you wants to go, get off it. Like it's so many years old. Like, give it a bit more respect.
That we should probably say actually to people, this is where the High King of Ireland would be crowned, supposedly, throughout all of Irish history.
Yeah, there's so much uncertainty around that. Like the High Kingship was probably a concept which came much later in the early medieval period.
Yes.
Um, but there was probably some sort of regional king in this area for a long time, and this was kind of the ceremonial and ritual capital. In the Iron Age, this was probably almost certainly a ritual complex. It was like an open air ceremonial complex rather than a place where a ruler probably would have lived. The ruler may have come here as part of their ritual duties and stuff like that, because there's good evidence from kind of Roman accounts that Ireland probably had kings during this period.
Yeah.
But this was very much more of a ritual center. And this is kind of.
Wonder how many times we've said ritual today.
Yeah, so many times. This was probably a ceremonial center. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Let's dodge that one. But this is like one interesting as one of the few examples of earthworks of this style being built in the Iron Age in Europe. It's kind of reversion to more hengiform style construction, and I find it kind of fascinating for that
with
reason.
this enclosure sort of around the outside of it.
Yeah, and this place, there's so much stuff that's just not survived from here. There was probably standing stones all over the site, for example. Yeah. There's one left that's at the center of the big ring barrow on the left hand side in the middle figure of 8 thing.
Yeah,
that's called the Stone of Destiny.
Every culture has remodeled this place since it was first, including the latest culture, which is the Christian culture. So if you're Christians, you don't want to, you don't want to, carry on having the pagan stuff going on.
Yeah, built a church over the structure on the left, which is the Rath of the Synods, which probably started out as a ritual structure again, but it's one of these common elements that ties all these different sites together. Is on the surface they all look a little bit different. So you've got sites like Tara, you've got to some extent Newgrange was still stuff going on there during this time, but that was mostly earlier. You got Navan Fort,
certainly Knowth, which is next to Newgrange, that had early medieval things going on there.
Yeah, people literally were breaking into Knowth and carving ohm into pillars and stuff. Yeah. And the problem is none of the ohm makes any sense when you actually try and read it. So it's probably like a cryptic language that they used. But there was quite a few of these different centers, and there's parallels between a few of them. So that structure on the left, the what you call it, the Rath of the Synods, underneath it, at one point there was like a wooden figure of 8 structure.
Okay.
Yeah, in one of its earliest forms during the Iron Age, and there was a similar kind of figure of 8 enclosure at Navan Fort.
I was going to say, I know the one from Navan. I didn't know there was one here.
There's one at is it Dunollinia or whatever it's called? The other one, there's another one.
It's another one of the big sites, isn't it?
Yeah, and the type of processional avenue that led to those figure of 8 structures at Dunollinia and or Dunallinia, however it's pronounced, and Navan Fort. There's a similar processional way that leads to the main ceremonial mound at another one of these places called Rath Crohan, or Rath Cruachan is the. So I visited there. I spoke to, I think it's Daniel Curley is his name, the guy who managed it. Very nice guy. But he pronounced it Rath Crochan, I think. But every other source I can find everywhere says Rath Cruachan. So, or just Cruachan, because Rath, I think, means fort or whatever.
In my experience, I can learn the pronunciation for a thing, and then I get to the place, and the locals call it something completely different.
Yeah, so because it's like it turns out the version you were using was like medieval Irish pronunciation rather than modern
but then
the old
regional
Irish
dialects, particularly in Wales, for example. North Wales will pronounce something completely differently to South Wales, so it's just regionality. Yeah.
That happens as well. There's 3 major regional pronunciations in Ireland, and then you get things where you can try and use the older pronunciation for mythical figures, and people have a clue what you're talking about. Where it's oh, King Connor of I keep whacking my microphone. King Connor of Ulster, King Connor of Ulster, but it's oh, that's actually Conovar in older things, or different things. And if you turn up and talk about King Conovar, people will have a clue what you're on about. Probably,
You're always going to piss someone off, but what can you do?
Or how Navan Fort's called Iman Maka, but according to the staff at Navan Fort, it's Aun Maka, for example.
Oh, interesting.
So,
yeah. But I like Tara. Is there a statue of Patrick?
There is. I think he's coming when you go up the hill, like to the left of where the church is.
He's sort of next to the church, isn't he? Yeah. And
He's
did you go
down-
to the
down there.
bookshop?
I didn't, because when we got there, I think I went years and years ago. It's the middle of winter, so I can't remember if I went in the bookshop or not. But I went like a couple of months ago to film something, and we got there and we went, great, we're finally filming at a location that has facilities. There's a toilet, there's a cafe, there's everything. Get there, massive power cut, everyone's gone home.
Oh no. Oh no. It's really nice, the cafe there, and
It is.
the bookshop has got the loveliest eccentric guy running it. It was brilliant. He just looks like he's like, yes, what you have to run a bookshop. You could do nothing else.
You were born to be a bookshop owner.
Exactly. Yeah. So I got a couple of books from him. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's a cool place, and people put a lot of focus on these sorts of places because there's not that many like domestic sites have been found. It's thought that a lot of like ring forts and different settlements, some of them could have been built during this time, some examples of it. But there's been this kind of older narrative that the Iron Age in Ireland was a bit of a dark age to some extent. So if we go to the other photo I have, I think of the track, it begins with a C, and I always forget the name of the Collier, the Collier trackway. So this is I think this is a modern model of like the sort of trackway that was built over a bog in Iron Age, where they found the original timbers preserved when you dug down. And one argument from the time is that going by like I think the pollen record in the area, people would like people visiting the bog to get the resources that were there seem to have like lessened over the course of the Iron Age. So there were some arguments that maybe there was mass like depopulation and stuff like that. And I think now there's more residential centers starting to pop up. We got examples
Usually
like
is the case, isn't it?
Yeah, like just more archaeology needed doing. Like there's example like Dramanas showed up, and there's examples of probably round houses on Dramana and stuff like that. So
I think that people always used to focus on these big sites, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's similar in Britain as well in the same time period. People tend to focus on the hill forts, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. But more and more now these days, you can find more things. I wonder if LiDAR's been done on the landscape.
Yeah, I don't know where exactly it's done. I know LiDAR's been done in Dramana and some areas in County Fingal and some promontory forts around the area there, I think. But I don't know what, if any, LiDAR's. I think LiDAR has been done on the main mound at Rath Cruachan. Or some sort of imaging, because they looked inside it and found that like there's older enclosures underneath this gigantic mound.
Of course.
Yeah, they've never actually had to excavate inside the mound, because you can kind of see that there's possibly stone structures underneath that date back that are older. So, yeah, very interesting. These things, like being able to just see just a little bit under the surface from an aerial view.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll just show Navan as we're here.
Yeah, this is a Van Marcus. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a Wikimedia picture of the site that shows the whole majesty of it. This is just the central mound.
It's another one that's got a large sort of henge type structure around it, enclosing this central area, isn't it?
It's like a hill that's been enclosed by this big henge, and it's like covered in trees now. And
do you know is the henge from the Neolithic period? Do we know? Is it still up in the air?
I think it's still Iron Age. Is the henge?
I'm
not
it's
100%
Iron Age,
sure.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think you mentioned this. Like they are almost modelling it on the Neolithic, is what it looks like.
Yeah.
There's this idea of these older temples that they've
To some extent, maybe they came up with independently, or they may have come up.
Because I've been to the
Giants
Ring, for example.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Giants Ring at all?
Belfast. I know the name. I'll just quickly.
Because that is a giant henge monument.
Yes,
and
I know that one.
Looks kind of like Navan a little bit.
It does. It's kind of got a little bit of a central. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's kind of built up a little bit almost. Yeah. It's interesting, that one. It could be they were harkening back to an earlier time, but they did some strange stuff at Navan. Like under that mound, what did they do?
It's a big mass sacrifice of a building.
They built this gigantic wooden building, like absolutely huge. They filled it full of stones, like to like not like full the whole structure, but like to I think like a chest height or like waist height, serious height. And then they set fire to it And then they buried it, and it's like, and I'm not sure if they purposely built the building for it or if they like the building was in use for a while before that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Very strange.
What do you think of? I've read some people saying, "Oh, it's a little bit like Caesar's Wicker Man."
I mean, yeah, because the Wicker Man stuff is kind of reported much. No, actually, no, it's kind of contemporaneous that it's
Similar
mentioned.
date, same century, I think.
Yeah, because there are fire cults and like the later like Irish mythology talks about fire that was associated with Labieltana and stuff like that, the festival and like I went to the site of Ishnok, which is like the ritual center that's at the absolute center of Ireland, and they like do a modern revival where they burn things, and there's evidence that there was probably a fire cult there, and
That was brave of you to go there, Charles.
yeah, I went there. I went there and
you
like
could have been
yeah.
the Scottish policeman.
Now I made the smart move. I went after the fires had already been burnt. Yeah,
There you go.
I showed up there as the
me and you would be prime sacrifice material, I think. In
Yeah.
Wicker Man.
I think I went there and it was like there's no Wicker Man, thankfully. It was just a very foggy day and a very friendly woman. I think her name was Frances, who showed us around the site, but there was no one else there. It was abandoned because it was like November, and that
Yeah.
shows how great I am at scheduling projects that I showed up to film a site in November. But
To be honest, if you've got a nice clear day in November when it's not raining, it's often the best place to go somewhere because there's, as you say, there's no one there.
yeah, we went all over Ireland and Wales for filming a couple of months ago, and even though it was September stuff, we got really lucky. The weather was great, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
so
often
these are
do
kind
get
of
beautiful weather here. This is Rathcrogan then, so this is another
Yeah,
of
this
these
is
big. These are the
ring
sites.
fort,
There's a guy, is it Ewan MacNeill, who came up with the idea of the pentarchy, which was these big
the
Iron
5
Age sites
provinces.
rolling over. It's about 100 years old, his idea, so it's not necessarily what actually was going on.
Yeah.
But,
It's
this
interesting.
is one of them, I think.
It's like, because Rath Cruachan was kind of it's remembered in Irish mythology with Queen Maeve and all that stuff. It's part of like the Tynebo Cunha and stuff like that.
The cattle raid of Cooley.
Yeah, and
Culluan. What's the
Cuchulainn. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, Cuchulainn. Cuchulainn.
Cu is in a pigeon sound, Cuchulainn, but the because we like did an entire 4-hour podcast on him and we just completely mispronounced it and called him we called him Cuchulainn the whole time rather than Cuchulainn, and of course we got comments like
just offend
on
the
that
entire Irish nation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in like England would call him Cucuteni and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that's the problem though. That's why the Irish get annoyed because we're always butchering things.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that, but
yeah. Like I try and do my best. I really do. I do. I'm constantly failing.
Sometimes resources are hard to find. Sometimes you've got different regional variants on what the pronunciation is. But this is interesting because like these are ring forts. A lot of these kind of ring forts and stuff like that, they were kind of, some of them were possibly in the like the Iron Age and stuff like that, but some of them were kind of in the early medieval period. So these would have been like fortified areas for herding cattle in to keep them secure, and you had like probably like elites resident on these sites and things like that. And kind of a lot of the myths and legends that I think built up around these places in the early medieval period have kind of been a little back projected in Irish mythology into the Iron Age and the Bronze Age and stuff like that.
Totally. Yeah, as always happens. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of evidence of mass warfare in the Iron Age. I think there's a bit in the Bronze Age, but there's a lot more swords in the archaeological record in the Bronze Age, for example. Whereas the swords in the Irish Iron Age kind of look a bit pathetic by comparison that they found. So it's kind of maybe one of those things of where it's been just projected back a little bit too far into this kind of pseudo-historical period, especially things like chariots.
Off and the way. Yeah. Right, I'll put Drumana on.
Yes. Now, I'm going to be releasing a video in about a week's time. That's looking at this place. This is interesting. This was like probably a major trading post at the bare minimum. It was either native Irish who'd taken on some Romano-British traits, or it's been theorized this could have been a place where the Romans were trying, like this could have been a Roman settlement. Like the Romans could have been trying to use this as a base to invade Ireland. Is one theory that's been kicking around.
This is just north of Dublin, and
It is. It's just a short
it's-
drive the way up. Bunch of toll roads in the way, but yeah.
it's not far from Wales, basically.
Yeah,
What's
we
the
took.
distance? It's not. It's like
It's pretty easy. We took the ferry over, and it took us like 3 hours.
3 hours. Yeah. A Roman mariner could easily do it in a day.
Yeah. Absolutely easy. So yeah, it's an interesting site. Sadly, not a huge amount of excavation work really been done here. There's a bunch of metal detectorists in the 70s and 80s decided to plunder a bunch of the site, and then there was a lawsuit about that because some of it tried to be sold at Sotheby's, and the police stepped in, and all sorts of hijinks ensued. And it's only in the last kind of 5 or 6 years that they've started re-excavating the site, basically.
Yeah.
But if you're familiar with places like Hengistbury Head in Britain, it probably had a very similar role to that, as far as we can tell.
Yeah. I've read that it looks a little bit similar to some forts in Britain.
Yeah,
That's
one of
probably
the
one of the ones that you're mentioning.
that's one of the arguments that people have kind of used to say, oh, this could have been Romano-British inspired, or it could have been Roman, because it had like this triple bank of fortifications that you can just very tiny see that just where it kind of reaches the mainland.
There's a popular idea that all Roman forts were that playing card shape of stone.
Yeah.
They all looked the same, but that's not necessarily true. There were
No.
Roman forts that looked like this, you know.
Yeah.
And then also there were many Romano Britons who worked on behalf of the Romans.
Yeah.
So, you know, it could have been a state-sponsored expedition. It could have been actually Romano Britons working on behalf of the Romans, you know.
They do know that like the way that grain was farmed and used here and the varieties was much closer to the Roman Britain than what was going on elsewhere in Ireland at the time.
Here at Drumana.
Yeah, they're pretty certain
right.
now that
Wow.
there was. I wouldn't be surprised like if there were some people from Roman Britain coming over here, whether it was like a state-sponsored thing or the Romans were actually using this as a beachhead is, I think, can't really be determined at this point. The excavations haven't found anything that's obviously directly linkable to Rome. Nearby Lambay Island has a bit of material that's a bit Romanish, but
Romanish.
yeah,
I like it. That's
bit Roman brooches.
That's the entire Roman frontier, really. It's Romanish.
Yeah.
You go beyond the frontier, and there's like little bits of Romans here and there, Romanitas here and there. Much of Scandinavia is like that. You just have like little pockets of ex-mercenaries, ex-auxiliary soldiers. When they go home, they carry on living a little bit of a Roman way of life for a little bit.
That's the argument. There's a few places like I think there's a hill fort at Clogher, for example, which is they've kind of looked at and said this is probably like either the people here worked with Rome a lot and took on their habits, or this was literally someone coming from Roman Britain, and just because all the artifacts there are Roman, so it's like yeah.
I know where you're talking about. Actually, I thought it was Clogher.
Clogher. I might be mispronouncing it.
Gher. Is that what you?
Yeah, Clogher.
Yeah. I mean, I've never consulted anyone, so this is literally me just reading the place. But yeah, that is an interesting site because that's towards the end of the period.
Yeah, and
so it almost coincides with St. Patrick's age a little bit.
Yeah, I have like sort of mixed thoughts on that because there is an Iron Age intrusion, like there is an Iron Age part of the site, but then there's also a later 4th century one, which, as you say, is closer to Patrick. So it's,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it's like a bit of a mixed site, but between that site, Drumana, like a bunch of quotes from Tacitus and what's his name, Juvenal. There is a theory going around. There's been people arguing for over 150 years that maybe the Romans did try and pull something off here, basically.
Yeah. And you've got a video coming out on that soon next week.
Yeah, hopefully
everyone check
next week
out.
or so. Cool, thank you.
I've also got a video.
Channel.
It turns out on the same subject, but slightly different to Charles's one.
Yeah,
and mine.
You're going for the broader picture. Yeah,
hopefully will be out at some point in the next 2 years. So, yeah, I've been working on it for a long time.
That's the good sort of deadline to have. Next couple of years, I'll have it. Yeah,
exactly. But it'll be out at some point.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating topic, the whole Roman Britain, Ireland situation that's going on, because it's we don't really know much about it, considering these were areas that bordered each other for 400 years.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount that's known.
Exactly.
It would be very strange if there was no interaction, wouldn't it? Because it's, as we said, a day's sail.
Because there's like there's like Irish antiquarians in the early 20th century being like, oh, Ireland was completely like devoid of influence from Rome, and it's like
It's
that's
nonsense.
that's just nonsense. We found so much Roman material.
There's so much Rome, and that's what the Romans did. The Romans were always going beyond the frontier,
Yeah.
because it's how it kept their frontiers safe.
Yeah.
It kept them secure. They would always
That's
reach out beyond and make
literally
allies.
what
And,
literally what they were doing in Britain before they took it over. So,
exactly.
yeah.
And then it's the entire rest of the frontier. And Ireland isn't different to everywhere else, is it?
no, it's quite closely related to neighbouring Britain. Yeah.
And on that note, this leads us nicely into the last culture, which is the Vendel period.
Oh wow!
So let's have a look at these guys. So we're going to go straight into the borderlands beyond the Roman Empire in Scandinavia, so the far distant north of Europe, where you have guys with, and girls probably as well, with armor like this. And I think I love a helmet, and I think they're really cool helmets. I love the Vendel period helmets.
Who doesn't love a helmet? Yeah.
So in Britain at the same time period, you may have seen a bunch of helmets. They look a little bit like this, like the Sutton Hoo helmet and things like that.
Yeah, everyone thinks of Sutton Hoo, immediately.
Yeah. And there's a few other ones like the Benty Grange and then the Coppergate and things like this.
I like how the chain is all rusted together. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? But this is an example from Sweden. And there's many, many of these helmets in Sweden. There's more in Sweden than there are anywhere else for this time period. So this is like 6th, 7th, 8th century AD, before the Vikings, after the Romans. There's no histories for this time period. There's a lot of myth, and there's a lot of archaeology. So it's one of these interesting time periods where we don't know a lot for certain. We really don't. We know basically.
Yeah, it's very similar to like some of the Irish like early chronicles and mythical texts, where it's like there's probably a historical core to a lot of these tales, and like a lot of the places these tales about, you go and look there, and it's like, oh, there probably was like a royal center here. It's just that center died out before the beginning of the historical period.
That's
where
right.
we have
some of
records.
The kings might be real people. Some of the protagonists in the tales may be real people. Some of them may be later embellishments, later additions, but some of them might be real. And it's the time of the Beowulf story as well.
Yeah.
So Beowulf was a Geat, who basically came from this area of southern Sweden, where the Geats lived, basically the Geats or Hiats,
I think it's Yat.
Yayats, exactly. There's so many different pronunciations.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many wrong pronunciations. Anyway.
Yeah.
So and then the Sviar, the Swedes were to the north, and
before
the Swedes and the Geats
they were
would fight
unified
each other.
Sweden. Yeah.
2 areas in Sweden, and then there's the land of the Danes beneath, which is where Hrothgar had his hall. So Beowulf would have gone down here to fight for Hrothgar against the monster Grendel. And even though that is a mythological tale, it's got some fascinating things going on in it, and it really sort of paints a nice picture of the sort of world that was going on at this time in this area.
Yeah. Because it was kind of a case of, you didn't have like one king of Denmark or one king of Sweden or anything like that. You had like these different regional kings and stuff like that.
Absolutely loads. They were not united lands for sure.
Yeah, because they think that like the is it what's the name of the in Beowulf, the Great Hall? Is it name of the Great Hall in Beowulf? Anyway, apparently there's a couple of different archaeological sites which it could actually be based on. For example,
I'm trying to think of the name of it. The names escape me. Yeah, the name of that's going to bug me now.
Because Hrothgar was the king. What's the name of his hall?
Hrothgar's the king.
And
it was supposed
Heorot.
Heorot, and it was supposed to have golden, designs on the outside of it and all this, and just this magnificent place.
Is it Lejre or something in eastern Denmark where it was supposed to be?
That's one of the ideas. Yeah, there's many places a sort of hall complex has been found, and people have decided that it was Heorot. And there's interesting similarities with what's going on in the east of what is now England as well, because you have royal halls like Rendlesham, which was excavated recently near Sutton Hoo, which was probably the royal centre or one of the royal centres of the kings of East Anglia. Then you also have Yevering up in Northumbria, which is another great hall complex.
One I've heard of. Yeah.
And they're kind of similar to these ones going on in Scandinavia. But interestingly, they're not quite on the same scale. The ones in Scandinavia are a little bit more long-lasting and a little bit grander because people had more time to develop there. And it's almost like Anglo-Saxon England is at the edge of this vast cultural world.
Yeah.
And they're sort of like the barbarians on the edge. In
Yeah.
Sweden, they've been doing things for hundreds of years already, and they're more well-established, and they're
We're the imitators, yeah.
Yeah, basically. In the 3rd and 4th centuries, they served in the Roman armies, for example. So there would have been knowledge, a little bit of knowledge anyway, about the world to the south, because there's tons of Roman material in Scandinavia. It's fascinating. I went to the museum in Finland, actually.
Oh,
And
wow.
in Finland alone, there's vast amounts of Roman material. So somebody was going down to the Roman Empire from these tiny Finnish islands and fighting for the empire and then going home.
Yeah.
Or even going and raiding, but it may have been a bit of both.
Or it could have been like long distance trade, because I know that there was a big amber trade going through the region and stuff like that. And I did something similar. I went to the big museum in the National Museum in Copenhagen, I think, in Denmark.
Yes, love that museum too.
There's so much stuff there. It's
Absolutely
if you're ever in Denmark, go and see that museum. It's fantastic.
You've got to go there, 100%, because you've got like the Gundestrup cauldron from the Iron Age. You've got the Hjortspring boat. From the late Bronze Age, I think.
Yeah,
which
got
is
like early rune stones, all sorts. Yeah.
And what's the one I'm thinking of? The Trundholm Sun Chariot.
Yes, that one which everyone knows, where it's the sun with the horse pulling it.
Yeah, so cool. So these are more of these Vendel era helmets, and absolutely tons of them. And I just wonder, how many of these were in existence at one point? Would you have an entire warband with these helmets? Hundreds of them in one confrontation.
Would it be that, or would it just be the elite commanders
or
had
just
them?
the elites? Yeah.
Just look at the pattern work on like the eyebrows and the ridge going up the center, and
absolutely. And then they probably, I don't know if all of them did, but lots of them had this chainmail attached to them as well.
Yeah.
So military technology is very advanced at this point. It's kind of like they've got chainmail, they've got these pattern welded swords, which are like just really well made swords. And the same military technology is in place for the next quite a few centuries, to be fair, because it really is the origins of the sort of medieval world that's going to come later. What else was going to say? I was going to mention Gamla Uppsala, which is an awesome site. It's got these massive mounds, so these massive burial mounds. And if you've been to Sutton Hoo, have you been to Sutton Hoo?
I haven't. I know it very well, though. I've seen all the excavations and reconstructions. Yeah.
Well, they're a lot smaller than this, I'll put it that way. These mounds are they dwarf everything at Sutton Hoo. And I did a little bit more reading about this earlier, because I was just like, was Gamla Uppsala much bigger than sort of Rendlesham and that area? And yes, people tend to think it kind of was a more substantial site than anything in Anglo-Saxon England. So at that time period when King Redwald or whoever it was buried at Sutton Hoo, things going on in Sweden were on a grander scale.
Yeah. Because I know they've excavated a couple of these mounds, haven't they? They've actually gone in and found the remains that were in there. I just can't remember what that actually involved.
Unfortunately, at the time when Gamla Uppsala was really going, the way that they buried people was that they would... I'm pretty sure I'm right in this anyway, because I remember there's loads of burned remnants, basically, of artifacts. They would essentially burn everything. So a lot of it is gone. We're quite lucky, actually, that at Sutton Hoo, for example, it was not burned.
Yeah. So they kind of
left intact.
Did this big funeral pyre and then just put a big mound over the top of it. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. So almost everything's burned. So these kings or queens or whoever that was buried here, most of it's gone, and there's just little shreds left. Yeah. Unfortunately. It's one like the treasury of Atreus, where we just have to marvel at what would have been there.
Yeah, someone really powerful and really prestigious was there.
Yeah, potentially someone from these early sagas, who what's he called? What's his
Sturluson?
name? Snorri Sturluson. Yeah.
Is that I might be thinking of a Warhammer figure there. Let me have a look. Snorri
I've got his book here actually.
Snorri Sturluson.
It is.
Yeah, Sturluson. There we go.
So, yeah, gigantic book.
Yeah,
Gigantic
wow.
book. This one. I just realised you can't actually hear what I was saying when I was over there. But
No,
yeah,
it's
I've
fine.
grabbed the book. But yeah, like much of the things from this book and all the other sagas, you know, they may have been describing real people who lived at places like this.
Yeah. Or it might have just like, it's like the guy who won the Battle of Teutoburg Forest, or whatever it is, where we think that some of the later figures in like the kind of German medieval myth and folklore, like folk tales, were probably based off the guy there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it
example.
happens again with Attila. Attila the Hun
Yeah.
features quite heavily later on, hundreds of years after, just because he was this giant figure.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I'll just say that this culture is named after Vendel, which is an archaeological site. It's not a particularly impressive archaeological site, but it just so happens to be a place where they found loads of intact graves. So they just found most of these helmets are from one site, essentially. These are the Vendel helmets. And then there's a bunch of other helmets called the Valsiade helmets, which is one other site.
Oh, wow.
So most of these helmets come from just 2 archaeological sites.
Yeah. So are those
this
like, on the
one's-
left is the surviving and on the right is the reconstruction?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's probably more out there, which is the interesting thing as well, because Sweden's a massive country.
It
And
is.
there's probably more out there. So they've only really found these types of helmets from 2 archaeological sites. And then people have spent the last 100 years just obsessing over it, basically.
Basically, yeah.
What else do I have to say? To be honest, I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
I'll
no,
just
we've
show
done
this
like
as well. These are, these little fragments.
Oh,
that's
the
what
little-
generally
the
is
little
found,
scenes,
just
yeah.
small fragments. But then, actually, the motifs on these, the iconography, is actually very similar to at Sutton Hoo. And there is an idea that some of the things at Sutton Hoo and then some of these other princely burials in
Some
Anglo-Saxon
sort of monster
England
on the right there, yeah.
may have originated in Sweden or what is now Sweden, anyway.
Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I
Yeah,
think that's
traveling
probably-
smiths and things like this. Like they would go between the courts of whoever
Yeah.
would pay them the most.
Yeah. The old patronage system saying, hey, I want to be prestigious. Let's get this, like, I know that there is a master, like, smith working for so-and-so. Let's see if we can get him. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
much the same way as it happens today. Yeah. What else was I going to say? I was going to say something else. I think I was just going to say that. No, it's gone.
No, never mind.
It's gone.
I think
It's
we've
gone
done-
like the wonders of Gamla Uppsala.
Yeah. It's gone like Donkey Kong. The like, I think we've had quite a globe-trotting journey today, though, in
Oh, we
terms of
have.
like going to all
We've
these different
done-
sites.
15,000 years, I think.
Wow. So we've gone all the way from the beginning of like hunter-gatherers, all the way through to like early farming, and then through to the Vikings smashing some people up effectively.
Yeah. Well, the dawn of the Viking Age. I suppose
Yeah. This is
what
before
I
the
could
Vikings, yeah.
end it
Yeah.
saying is that the Viking period, like we were saying earlier with the Tas Tepeler, the Viking period was not the beginning of a new age at all, because it just continues on from this. So this flows into the Viking Age. They just develop a bit more ship technology.
Yeah, they go on tour, yeah.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So it's the
Yeah.
same, the people who were making these helmets and all that, they would just, yeah. It was these guys. These were the Vikings.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
Right. We're at the end of our journey.
We
As
are.
is tradition now, we'll quickly look at the chat, just see if there's any questions for us, because I always forget there even is a chat. I'm terrible at this. But there is a
I
chat.
was going to say I don't know for this if I can even see the chat. Let's have a look. Oh yes.
You have to go outside of this, I think.
Never mind then.
All we have to do is look at, basically, you open a new browser and look
Yeah,
at the
look at
thing.
YouTube.
Somebody says that you look like King Charles.
Which of the two of us are you referring to is the question there. I'm guessing it's me, just because I've got the shape. Although I do have like it going all the way up, I must admit. But I mean, the question is which King Charles now? Because we've got
Which
a few
King
of them.
Charles? Yeah.
Yeah,
Charles the Second, Charles the Third,
first, yeah.
the First.
I don't want to be the first.
No,
No.
the second would be all right, probably.
Second be fine, I guess. Like, yeah. He seems to have had
right.
a lot of fun, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry everyone. I'm terrible at these streams.
No, I think we had a good time. Like, content-wise, I think it was pretty heavy. Like, we had a lot substantive stuff to say.
I think we've had a lovely time.
Yeah, I
I
don't know
just
if
feel
anyone
bad for
watching did.
I just feel bad for people in the chat writing things and then we've just ignored them. We
Uh,
haven't meant to ignore you people.
hmm.
Any questions? Can I see any questions? Someone says we got rice in the UK in the 1970s. Yeah, a bit later than
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah. A couple of decades later. Yeah. That's strange to think about. Like, our grandparents, rice was like a novel thing to them coming in.
Somebody says, question, did ancient China have Olympic Games type events? I'd like to say yes. I mean, I think that sports is a thing that people have not looked at enough at all, like ancient games and things like that. Because if you look at the Mesoamerican ball game, it's absolutely central to how society functioned. And then, the Olympic Games, important stuff. What do you think?
I'm of a similar mind. It does make me wish I knew more about traditional Chinese sports outside of kind of the Western sports that they've kind of uptaken and become involved with. I certainly think sports and games for festivals and things like that, they've always been like a core thing throughout history. You think of like the Romans in terms of like throwing their gladiatorial games and horse racing and stuff like that. I fully believe that they probably had a version of horse racing or chariot racing and archery contests and all sorts of things going on.
They did
after a certain
horse
point in
racing
China.
at Gamla Uppsala. Big time horse racing.
I fully believe that by the time that they started to have like proto states, or even like, I think even probably villages had their sports that they played and things like that.
I think so. I think it's a way of uniting groups together and then having this like friendly rivalry, sometimes not friendly, but rivalry that creates sort of, you can end up building things and, through that competition.
Yeah, if you extend that idea out as well, like early war games and stuff like that, in terms of like preparing your army, there could be a sporting element to that as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Somebody says, is that suit of armor in the Thessaloniki Museum? It's in the Nafplio Museum, the Dendra panoply.
Yeah, from the
if we're
Mycenaean
talking about
Greece.
that.
Yeah. I would like to go over and visit some of those museums. Oh, cool. Has anyone added
history?
any
Hello, history with Kaylee. Kaylee says, I made Stefan make fun of Pete in the chat. can't even find that comment. That's how bad I am at this. Yeah, sorry everyone.
That sounds like Stefan.
Sounds like Stefan.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, this has been a lovely chat.
Yeah, it's been a great time.
We'll have to do this again sometime.
Definitely. Because I always think I should try doing this and I should get other history YouTubers to come on and have a chat and stuff like that. And then it just always gets pushed to the bottom of the to-do pile.
Yeah, 100%. There's just there's so many things to do. And so many of them take such a long time to do.
Yeah. If you're trying to be thorough about your research and it's always the way of things.
Any final words?
I wouldn't have been very good on the execution scaffold, would I?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Final words before the gallows goes up.
History. Turns out there's been a lot of it. Yeah.
I would agree. I think that's good final words. All right,
keeps
everyone.
going.
It keeps going. There's going to be more of it too.
Crazy.
Right. See you all later. Thanks everybody for joining. And
thank you very much. Thanks for having me.